A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Sound off for Chesterfield. Chesterfield, the only cigarette in America to give you premium quality in both regular and king size, brings you Dragnet.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to robbery detail. A series of holdups takes place in your city. The victims are managers of large markets. You've got a description of the suspect. Your job, get him. Thousands are changing to Chesterfield, both regular and king size, because only Chesterfield has premium quality in both sizes.
That means king-size Chesterfield contains tobaccos of better quality and higher price than any other king-size cigarette.
The same fine tobacco as in regular Chesterfield. There is absolutely no difference, except that king-size Chesterfield is larger, contains so much more of the same tobaccos, it gives more than a fifth longer smoke. Yes, more than a fifth longer smoke from king-size Chesterfields.
So remember, Chesterfield is the only cigarette to give you premium quality in both regular and king size.
Buy 'em either way you like 'em, regular or king size. You'll find premium quality Chesterfields much milder. Yes, Chesterfield is best for you.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Thursday, February 7th. It was raining in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of robbery detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Didion. My name's Friday. I was on the way back from R&I, and it was 8:42 a.m. when I got to room 27A. Robbery.
Hey, you, Joe?
Yeah.
Where you been?
Gone to R&I?
Oh, I'm sorry I'm late.
No, it's no problem.
Couldn't get the car started. The battery was dead. I had to call the gas station and have them get me started.
Well, don't worry about it. It's okay. Anything here in the book?
No. Checked them when I got in. Had a 211 out in Westwood last night. Same M.O. Might be the guy.
Who's checking it?
Murph and Creasy went out there this morning.
Here's the stuff we got last night. R&I went through it. Doesn't look like they got anything. You seen the skipper yet?
No, I saw him come in. I didn't talk to him. Came in, went to his office carrying a bottle of milk.
Well, that figures.
He's like a barometer, isn't he, Joe? When there's no milk on his desk, you know everything's under control.
Yeah.
As soon as that milk comes out, you know the ulcers are grinding.
Yeah, I suppose.
That must be real rough on him, though. The way the papers have been yakking about this thing. I saw Captain Jack this morning on the way in.
Yeah.
He said the corner pocket's leaning all over him.
Well, there's got to be an answer someplace. The guy can't just keep walking into the stores and walking out again. He's got to make a mistake someplace.
Yeah. What's it figure? 6 jobs so far?
Yeah, 6 of them. Every one of them he's made it clean. Hot shot. I'll get it. Well, those figures were wrong.
Yeah?
He just made it 7. For the past 2 months, a hold-up man had been hitting markets throughout the central area. In each case, the description of the bandit was the same. His M.O. tallied with that used in other robberies. In each instance, the bandit had been waiting for the manager of the market when the store was opened. At gunpoint, the suspect would force the manager to accompany him around the market. He'd push a wire food cart in front of him as they walked. He'd pick up various merchandise and place it in the basket. He'd then force the manager to open the safe, clean it out, lock the manager in a cold storage vault, and walk out of the market pushing the food cart in front of him. Special stakeouts had been arranged at the markets. Extra units from Metro Division had been assigned to patrol duty, but the holdups continued. 9:22 a.m. Frank and I got to the address of the latest robbery, the county market at the corner of Olympic and Maryland. A radio car was there when we arrived.
Come in. Yes, something you wanted?
Police officers. It's my partner, Frank Smith. My name's Friday.
Hello, I'm Arthur Scott. I'm the manager here. You got that man who did this yet?
No, sir, not yet. I wonder if you could tell us just what happened.
Sure.
You know where the other officers are, Mr. Scott?
Outside someplace. They were talking to the others, getting names and addresses, something like that.
You want to check them, Frank?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I wonder if you'd mind telling me just what happened.
Well, the man was waiting for me when I came in this morning. I don't know how he got in. He just walked up behind me and said that I shouldn't cause any trouble.
About what time was this, do you remember?
Well, let's see. It must have been about 7:10, 7:15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I came in the front door. Everything looked all right. Walked back here on my way to the office. He just came up in back of me.
Yes, sir.
Had this gun. He pointed at me, told me not to cause me trouble, like I said.
What kind of a gun was it, would you remember?
It was just a gun. He pointed it right at me.
Well, I understand that, sir. Do you remember if it was an automatic or a revolver?
I guess it was a revolver, long barrel. I could see the bullets in it. I knew it was loaded. I wasn't going to mess with him.
Yes, sir. And what happened after he walked up to you?
He told me that if I went along with him, I wouldn't get hurt. And then he walked me up to the front of the store by the check stands, took one of the baskets, and started to walk along the racks. Made me walk in front of him. Real nervy. Took his time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while we walked along, he'd take things out of the displays.
Well, what kind of things?
Well, different kind of cheeses, caviar, took some special artichoke hearts. Things cost $1.50 a jar. Expensive.
Yes, sir. What did the man look like, Mr. Scott? Can you give us any kind of a description?
Well, that's kind of hard. He had on this big overcoat and a brown hat pulled down, and then the black mask over his face. I couldn't get a very good look at him.
Well, how old would you say he was?
Oh, boy, I'd have to guess on that. Maybe 50, 55. Looked that old anyway. About all I could see was the bottom part of his face, like he was pretty old.
Mm-hmm. How about the color of his eyes? Could you see them?
Yeah, through the mask they were blue. Real light blue, kind of watery.
About how tall would you say he was?
Maybe 5'2" or 3. Short little man.
Mm-hmm. How about his weight?
Real little, like I said. I don't think he weighed more than 130. That'd be outside, too.
Was there anything unusual about him? Anything at all that you can remember?
No, not that I can remember.
Anything in the way he talked? Some accent of any kind? Anything like that?
No, nothing at all there.
Mm-hmm. How about the coat he was wearing? What color was that? Do you remember?
It was a dark brown, sort of a herringbone. Looked real old, like it'd been worn for a long time, kind of frayed around the edges of the cuffs. You know, around here like this, and the buttonholes on the coat were all torn, too. Oh, excuse me.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Scott? Yeah. How much? Yeah, and how much case? Mm-hmm. That's not too bad. Yeah, we'll order 25 cases of it, huh? We'll use it as a loss leader this weekend. Okay. Well, don't bother me about it now. You do what you think. Okay. Seems like nobody can do anything but you. Give people a little responsibility, they hardly ever know how to use it.
Yes, sir. Wonder if you'd go ahead with your story.
Hmm?
Well, right after this man picked up the food?
Oh, well, at first I thought he was going to take that. And then I got thinking about the stuff in the papers. You know about the Black Mask Bandit?
Yes, sir.
Well, I got thinking about that, and then I knew who he was. I tried to get as much information about him as I could. Not much, anyway. About this time must have been 7:30 or so. Jack Thomas came in. He works in the vegetable department. And right away, this guy said for him to get in the back.
You mean back here?
No, back in the meat department. Put him right in the refrigerator.
Well, what about the other employees? What happened when they came in?
He'd make them get back in the refrigerator. Cold. People were pretty lucky. Being how it was cold outside, most of them had coats on. Would have froze if they didn't have.
I understand.
Customers, too. They'd come in, he'd put them in the refrigerator. There was 14 people in there when he got through. A couple of kids, too. Came in with their mothers.
I see.
Well, then he took me back to the safe, made me open it. I thought about saying no, but it's a little safe, you know, down low.
Yes, sir.
Well, I knelt down to work the combination. I looked up at him, had the gun pointed right at my head. I looked right into the barrel, saw the bullets in the cylinders. I was scared, and I opened the safe. He took the money and put it in a paper bag and dropped it into the basket.
And he put you in the refrigerator, too, did he?
Yeah, that is, he started to. When he opened the door, the people in there were all shivering, flailing their arms around, trying to keep warm. It's a little room, not much bigger than this, and there wasn't much room to flail. Anyway, they asked him if he wouldn't let him out. He said no, but then he asked me if there was someplace else he could put him. And I told him that the only place I could think of was another storage room. We use it sometimes when we got a real big shipment of meat. Don't usually keep it under refrigeration.
I see. He let you all go there, huh?
Yeah, the darndest thing I ever saw. 14 of them. All 14 herded them just like cattle. Moved them all to the other cooler. They were all so cold they'd have done anything to get out of that one. I tell you, officer, I was scared that one of them might try to be brave about it and cause trouble. I think that guy would have killed him right on the spot.
Yes, sir. Well, what did he do then?
Well, he locked the door. Then from what I could see through the cooler window, he just strolled out of the store and down the street. He was still wheeling a basket in front of him.
Anything, Frank?
Yeah, Joe. I checked with Wheelock from the radio car. He said they canvassed the neighborhood, came up with a man who thinks he saw the bandit drive away.
Was he able to give us any kind of a description on the car?
No. Said he saw this guy walking down the street pushing a basket and thought it was kind of funny. Didn't pay too much attention to it. Saw him get into a late model Ford and drive away. Couldn't give a very good description of the car. Said it was a dark color. Not sure about the year.
The guy still had that mask on?
No. Didn't have the mask, but the fellow didn't notice anything about his face. Can't help us much there. He's going to come down and look through the mug books.
Oh, that's good. Do you have any idea how much money was taken here, sir?
Well, no, I can't tell you to the penny, but I figure about $3,500.
You usually keep this much money on hand, do you?
No, not as a rule. I didn't get to the bank yesterday. We had an inventory sale going on. I just didn't get the chance.
Did the bandit take anything you think might help us identify him? Anything from the safe that you might be able to describe?
No, not a thing. Just the money. Of course, that's enough. There wasn't much in there. A wristwatch that was lost here in the store. He looked at that but threw it back into the safe.
Was he wearing gloves, do you remember?
Yeah, he was. Looked like pigskin, sort of a light tan. Mm-hmm. Oh, I know what you're thinking about, fingerprints. Oh, with those gloves, he wouldn't leave any.
Yes, sir.
Say, officer.
Yeah?
You talked to the other officer that was here, the one in the car?
Yes, sir, I did.
He was kind of in charge of the people in the icebox, took care of them. Was any of them hurt?
No, sir. Some of them were pretty cold, but they were all right.
Yeah, we keep that box turned way down to sub-zero.
Yes, sir.
I wonder if, as police officers, you'd mind talking to those folks. They're all good customers here. I'd hate to lose them to Frenchie's Fine Foods down the street.
Where's that, sir?
Frenchie's Market just down the street. He's going to make a big thing out of this. By noontime, it'll be all over the neighborhood.
Well, I'm sure none of your customers will blame you, sir.
Well, no, officer, it ain't exactly that. That Frenchie's going to make a big reputation on my back.
Well, Mr. Scott, markets have been held up before.
Yeah, but not with our motto.
What's that?
We freeze anything.
9:46 a.m. Frank and I continued to talk to Arthur Scott. We questioned him about the actions of the hold-up man, but he was unable to give us any new information. The crime lab came out and checked the store. The M.O. was the same. He'd entered through a rear window. Tool marks were found. Photographs were taken. No other physical evidence was found. 10:14 a.m. We drove back to the office and checked with Captain Didion. 3 other teams of men were assigned to help us in interviewing the people who had been locked up in the refrigerator. None of them could add anything to what we already knew. Because of the age of the bandit and the smoothness with which he operated, we had a hunch that he might have served some time in a state prison. Frank and I checked out a trip car and drove up to Folsom Penitentiary. We checked with Warden Heinze and told him what we wanted. For the next 2 days, we checked the prison files. We got several possible leads, but when we got back to Los Angeles, none of them led anywhere. Tuesday, February 12th, 8:49 a.m. We checked with Captain Didion.
Well, you come up with anything?
No, not a thing, Skipper. We checked them all out. Nothing.
How much longer do you figure it's going to take you to come up with something we can use?
We're doing everything we can. We've run down every lead.
They all go nowhere. Yeah, I know. I've been telling the corner pocket that all month. It doesn't prove a thing, and they aren't buying it anymore.
Well, Frank and I got an idea, Skipper. It's kind of wild, but might turn it.
Well, let's hear it.
Well, if you take a look at the map over here. In the last 2 months, he's hit 7 places here. Here, through here, and up and through here. Not much of a pattern, but maybe there's enough to work on here.
Mm-hmm.
From the way he's worked in the past, he's going to be waiting in the stores when the manager comes in. So the problem is to find some way to check the managers after they first get to the stores.
So?
Well, so most of the stores open about 8 o'clock. From what we've been able to check out, the managers get in about 6:30 to 7. We make arrangements for them to call the office after they're in the stores, and they've checked them through.
How are you going to work the calling?
Well, Frank and I figured that if we could stagger the calls, so we'd get one at, say, 6:30, next one at 6:31 or 6:32, and so forth.
We allow them 5 minutes leeway. If we haven't heard from them in that time, then we know something's wrong.
How many men do you figure you're going to need to do this?
Well, maybe 2-3 other teams. Those and the men from Metro that we have now.
It's wild, Skipper, but it's about the only thing we got left.
How long will it take you to check with the store owners?
Well, maybe 2-3 days. We figured we'd keep it in this area right over here. It seems to be maybe where he'll hit next, is all we can.
Now, just a minute. Robbery, Didion. Yeah. When? Are you sure about the ammo? Mm-hmm. Description? Send it in, will you? Right. Better enlarge that area.
What do you mean?
You just hit in Sacramento.
Tuesday, February 12th, 3:45 p.m. Frank and I talked on the phone to Fritz Kaminsky, chief of police in Sacramento. He told us that the market bandit went through the same sequence of events that had characterized his operations in Los Angeles. First, he took several food items from the display stands in the store, and then he forced the manager to open the safe. After robbing the safe, the thief locked the manager in a meat refrigeration locker and left the store. A witness in the neighborhood saw the suspect leave the store and said that he'd escaped in a late-model dark Ford sedan. He was unable to give us much of a description of the man, but he said that he was elderly, small, and that he'd been dressed in a brown overcoat and a brown hat, and he wore a black mask. There could be little doubt that it was the same man who had been hitting the markets in the Southland. Wednesday, February 13th. Frank and I checked out a trip car, and we drove up to Sacramento. We talked with the victim and with a witness. Both of them were unable to find the thief's picture in the mug books. Stakeouts were arranged on the markets in the Sacramento area, and additional bulletins were gotten out on the Ford sedan. Frank and I returned to Los Angeles and started to set up the plan that we discussed with Captain Didion. Each of the store managers agreed to cooperate, and starting the morning of February 18th, the plan was put into operation. 3 weeks passed. The bandit failed to hit again. March 18th, 6:37 a.m.
Robbery, Murphy. What's that number?
Yes. Robbery, Smith. Yes, sir. Okay, thanks. Number 38, okay.
Right. Still no word from 34. We better get ready to roll on it.
Let's see. That's that supermarket on Palmetto Avenue.
That's right. Let's go. Murph.
Yeah?
Catch the rest of the calls, will you?
Yeah, sure, Joe.
What do you think, Joe?
I don't know. Let's find out.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
The modern way to sell cigarettes is the Chesterfield way, both regular and king size. And we're the only one that does it. We tell you what Chesterfields are made of to give you premium quality in both popular sizes. Our scientists select the best materials. They select for Chesterfield the world's best tobaccos, blend them just right, and they keep Chesterfields tasty and fresh with the best of moistening agents. Now, here's something else that's completely modern about Chesterfield. People smoke Chesterfield, and we tell you what happens. Scientifically, but simply.
A medical specialist is making regular bi-monthly examinations of a group of people from various walks of life. 45% of this group have smoked Chesterfield for an average of over 10 years. After 8 months, the medical specialist reports that he observed no adverse effects on the nose, throat, and sinuses of the group from smoking Chesterfield.
I'd say that means real mildness. And finally, we ask you to try Chesterfield and prove what we say. Chesterfield is best for you. They're much milder, to give you all the pleasure that the modern cigarette can give.
It took us a little over 5 minutes to get to the store on Palmetto. As we went by the place, we couldn't see anyone through the front windows. The store looked empty. Frank pulled the car into the parking lot next door to the store, and we walked around to the front.
How about it?
No, I can't see anything from here. You want to cover the back?
Yeah.
I'll give you time to get back there, then I'll go in the front.
Right.
Watch it.
I tell you, I don't know the combination.
I don't want any trouble. I'm trying to be nice. I don't want to hurt you. Open the safe and everything will be all right. You read the papers. You know about me. Now do what I say and nothing will happen.
All right, mister. Let's hold it right there. Police officers, put that gun down. Stop.
Watch it, Joe. He's coming at you. Get out of my way.
All right, come here.
You okay, Joe?
Yeah, I got him, Frank. You want to shake him down?
Right. There. You got him? You got the gun?
Yeah, we got him.
I was sure scared there for a minute. I tried to think about how I was going to stall him long enough before you get here.
Yeah.
He's clean, Joe.
All right, come on, mister. On your feet. Come on. What's your name?
Clark. Leonard Clark.
All right, let's go.
You want me to go along with you?
Yeah, well, once you make a crime report.
Fine. I'll do anything to help try to rob me.
Lousy deal. Might have known something was wrong the way that guy played it. Should have known.
Yeah, sure.
You figure me for the guy you're looking for? This black masked bandit the paper's been yakking about?
That's the way we figure it.
Well, too bad, fellas. You can't make me for it.
Is that right?
Yeah, you're looking for somebody else. You got the wrong man.
How old are you, Clark?
52.
Ever serve any big time?
Sure, what's that prove?
Well, the way you look, the way you work this one, even the mask. We made you for it.
Only one thing.
What's that?
You gotta prove it.
8:30 a.m. We took Leonard Clark downtown to the city hall. We talked to him for about an hour. He admitted trying to hold up the market, but he insisted that he was not the Black Mask Bandit. He told us that he'd read about the holdups in the paper and that it seemed like an easy way to pull a robbery. He told us that he'd used a pinch bar to jimmy a rear window in the market, and then he entered the place. He told us that he'd waited for the manager to come in, and then he tried to get him to open the safe. Sergeants Murphy and Creasy went out to his home. They found nothing there to tie him in with the other robberies. A check through R&I showed a record on Clark listing 2 convictions for 211 and 1 count of 245 PC. He'd served time at both San Quentin and Folsom penitentiaries, as well as some of the eastern penitentiaries. Mug shots of Clark were shown to the victims of the Black Masked Bandit, and they said that it was a possibility that he could be the man who'd robbed them. Friday, March 21st, a special show-up was arranged, and the victims were asked to be present. We explained that the questions asked were for the express purpose of acquainting the victims with the suspect's voice. Clark was brought out on the stage and asked his name.
Leonard Clark.
What were you arrested for?
I don't know.
You must know what you're being held for.
They say I'm the Black Masked Bandit.
Are you?
No.
Were you armed when you were arrested?
What?
Were you armed when you were arrested?
Yeah.
What kind of weapon were you carrying?
38 revolver.
Leonard, could you speak a little louder, please?
38 revolver.
How long you been in jail?
Since Tuesday.
Where were you arrested?
Market out on South Palmetto.
It's a long street. Where on South Palmetto?
1721 South Palmetto.
What were you doing there?
Was arrested for trying to hold up the place.
You ever done any big time?
Huh?
I say, you ever done any big time?
Yeah.
Where?
At Q, Folsom.
What'd you do the time for, Leonard?
Which time?
Well, let's take them in order. How about Quentin?
5 to life for robbery.
How about Folsom?
Same thing.
You owe any time now?
Yeah, I'm on parole.
Joe.
Yeah.
Ask him to turn around, will you? The victims can't see him too good.
All right. Leonard, take a quarter turn to your left. No, Leonard, to your left. All right. Now another quarter turn. Another quarter turn. Now another quarter turn. No, same way. Another quarter turn. Now face the front, Leonard. Where do you live?
On Hollywood.
Where?
Corner of DeLongpre and Monroe, apartment house.
It's a good-sized corner. Which apartment?
Ashley Arms, apartment 604.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a carpenter.
A what?
Carpenter, I said.
You work steady?
Yeah.
Who do you work for?
I'm a carpenter for a contractor named Gageley.
Now look straight, will you, Leonard? Straight ahead.
Yeah.
You remember where you were on February 7th? That was a Thursday.
No.
You got no idea at all?
Not at all.
You own a car?
Yeah.
What make is it?
It's a Fore.
Speak up, will you, Leonard? We can't hear you.
A Fore.
What color is it?
Dark blue.
What year?
1950.
All right, Leonard. Now, would you step over to the side of the stage? No, the other way. Side of the stage. How's it look, Frank?
Nothing yet. Manager at the county market seems to think it's him. The others aren't sure.
Yeah. Well, maybe when we get the coat and mask on, it'll help. Those clothes, Leonard, are they yours?
Yeah, they're mine.
How about that mask? That belong to you, too?
Yeah.
Would you put the mask on? Well, just put it on. That's it. Now put the hat on. That's the way you usually wear it?
That's right.
All right. Take a quarter turn to your left. No, Leonard, your left. That's it. Now again. And again. Once more. All right, now face forward. Now all the way around. Come on, Leonard. Straight forward out of this. That's it.
No.
Now repeat these words. Just be quiet and you won't get hurt.
Just be quiet. You won't get hurt.
Now say, open the safe And don't cause any trouble.
Open the safe. Don't cause any
A
trouble.
little louder, Leonard.
Open the safe and don't cause any trouble.
All right, Leonard. You can take the mask off. How many times have you been arrested?
I don't know.
About how many times would you say?
Maybe 15, something like that.
What'd you fall for?
Suspicion.
Suspicion of what?
A lot of things. They didn't nail me for.
How old are you now, Leonard?
52.
How old were you when you were arrested the first time?
16.
You've had quite a life, haven't you?
Yeah, I fell among evil companions.
All right, Leonard, that's all. Well, how about it, Mr. Scott?
I can't be sure, Sergeant, but I think that's the man.
Can I see a minute, Joe?
Mm-hmm. Scott just gave a tentative identification.
Yeah, well, he's the only one.
What do you mean?
The others say we got the wrong name.
11:45 p.m. We returned Leonard Clark to his cell. Frank and I continued to question the victims of the Black Masked Bandit. Only one of them was able to give us a tentative identification. Clark would be filed on the following morning for attempting to rob the market on Palmetto Avenue, pending investigation on the other charges. The working detective has come to know that many times at a show-up, identifying witnesses sometimes become confused, sometimes fail to speak up for one reason or another, sometimes due to fear, the idea of incriminating a man, thus making the officer's task of bringing a suspect to justice all the more difficult. In spite of the lack of identifying witnesses, Frank and I felt reasonably sure that we had the Black Masked Bandit in custody. The following morning, March 22nd, we checked into the office to fill out the follow-up forms.
You know, Joe, I just can't figure it. He's got to be it. He's got the motive, the opportunity, everything.
Yeah, M.O. matches.
We got him on one count anyway. What happens now?
Well, I guess we just wait. If there aren't any more holdups, we know we got the right guy. It's about the only way you can do it. Anyway, you slice it, Clark's finished. The court gets through with him this time. They'll nail him for life.
Yeah, I suppose so. He sure looks like the guy to me, though. I tell you, Joe, he's got to be it. Everything fits with him, all the way down the line.
That's what I figured, too.
Friday, Smith?
Yeah, Skipper.
Call from Hollywood Division. Just had one at 3rd and Selma.
Yeah, what about it?
Black Masked Bandit. We haven't got him.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On July 17th, trial was held in Department 89, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, all of us who sell Chesterfields want to thank you for making 1952 such a wonderful year, both for Dragnet and for Chesterfield. Remember, Chesterfield makes it possible for us to bring you Dragnet, and in return, we hope you'll try our cigarette, because Chesterfield is best for you. Premium quality Chesterfield. Either way you like them, regular or king size. They're much milder.
Leonard Stanley Clark was tried and convicted of attempted robbery. Because of his previous criminal record, he was sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. He is now serving his term in the state penitentiary, Folsom, California.
Next week, The Big Mask, Part 2. Ladies and gentlemen, as an investment, bonds are better than ever. So whether you already buy on the payroll savings plan where you work or the bond-a-month plan where you bank, get an extra bond for defense tomorrow.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Whit Connor, Harry Bartell. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Sound off for Chesterfield. Either way you like them, regular or king size, you'll find premium quality Chesterfields much milder.
Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
night, there's more adventure with Barry Craig, confidential investigator, on NBC.
My name's Regan. I work for Anthony J. Lyon, International Detective Bureau. They call me the Lion's Eye.
Wednesday at 9, and CBS brings you Jeff Regan, Investigator, starring Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. So stand by for mystery and suspense and adventure in tonight's story of Some Enchanted Carhop.
It was just an ordinary drive-in hamburger joint on Vermont off Sunset, but they called it Hamburger Heaven. And just to carry out the idea, they'd hired 6 angels to wait on cars. 3 blondes, a redhead, and 2 brunettes. I was lucky. I drew the redhead. Only she didn't serve up what I ordered. All she brought me was trouble. The whole thing started when there were only 8 more shopping days until Christmas. I fought my way through the necktie and sock set, and by the time I reached the office, I was ready to start celebrating New Year's. But my boss, the Lion, had other ideas. When I walked in, all 280 pounds of him was up on an office stool. He was tacking a dried-up sprig of mistletoe over the door.
Jeffrey, my boy, come in. The festive season is at hand.
How's that again?
I said the festive season is at hand. I'm filled overflowing with the Yuletide spirit.
Yeah? Well, you better take those nails out of your teeth before you spring a leak.
Oh, yes. Yeah, guess you're right, my boy. I got carried away.
Yeah, sure. You and Tiny Tim. We're expecting women clients?
Women clients? Oh, you mean the mistletoe. Well, Jeffrey, you never can tell when a sweet young thing might accidentally happen in.
Stop drooling, Fatso. You dropped out of a mistletoe set 50 pounds ago.
Well, maybe so, but I still believe in Santa Claus. Yeah. Now, where was I?
You were up on the stool with berries in your hair.
No, I mean about the new client. What have I told you so far?
That the festive season is at hand?
Huh? Oh, then I haven't told you about our new client. His name is Ward Hamilton, Jeffrey. He was in just a few minutes ago. Fine figure of a man. Well-dressed, distinguished, and prosperous.
That explains the Christmas spirit. How much?
Jeffrey, the Christmas spirit cannot be measured in terms of money. This is the time of goodwill toward men of unselfish devotion.
Sure. How much unselfish devotion did he buy?
$50 worth. It's something about his niece or daughter or some friend or something.
What about them?
Well, it seems this girl's been receiving packages, flowers, candy, that sort of thing.
Well, what's so mysterious about that? Doesn't she know it's Christmas?
Well, for some reason or other, Ward Hamilton says she's worried about them. He'll tell you all about it when you see him. The address is on the desk. It's out on Iredell Road in North Hollywood.
So I find the Santa Claus that's been sending the packages.
Say, that's right. This case does fit right in with the season, doesn't it?
Sure. And Merry Christmas to you, too, Fatso. That started it. I hopped in my sleigh and headed my reindeer out over Cahuenga Pass. Iredell Road was twin rows of California bungalows with Christmas decorations strung out in front. All except one house. It was the address Lion had given me. Redwood front on the usual cream-colored stucco. White ranch-type fence, swimming pool in the backyard. No Christmas anywhere. Behind the fence, a big Dalmatian wagged his tail and grinned at me in a nice, friendly sort of way. Only he was growling when he did it. I circled wide and made the porch, but I didn't get as far as the doorbell.
What do you want?
Mr. Hamilton? I'm Regan, International.
Regan? Oh, yes, the detective. Come in, Mr. Regan, come in.
He was big and gray-haired, the man of distinction. But what he had in his hand wasn't a glass. It was a whip. Black, 10 feet long, with lead weights at the tip.
In here. I appreciate your coming right out, Mr. Regan. I'd like to get prompt action.
Is that what you used that for?
Well, the whip. No, just a hobby of mine. I practice hitting toy ducks floating in the swimming pool.
Oh, nice way to get use out of your pool during the winter season.
Well, yes. Never mind that. Sit down, Mr. Regan. I want to tell you about Mary.
That's the niece.
Niece? No relation. I'm a close friend of her family's. Her parents died several years ago. There was no one else, so I've tried to take over the reins and help the girl along. It hasn't been easy.
She isn't broken to harness.
It's a nice metaphor, but it doesn't fit. Not at all. Mary Winter is a strange girl. Very strange.
She's the shy, retiring type.
Ah, I see. The detective training. You're thinking ahead, assuming that she's not attractive to men. Nothing could be further from the truth. She's a lovely girl. Very lovely. Auburn hair, green eyes, fine, firm, youthful figure. Desirable is the word, Mr. Regan. Desirable. You understand what I mean?
You make it pretty clear. So, that brings us to the anonymous packages.
For almost 6 weeks, someone has been sending Mary gifts. Almost every day. Flowers, candy, novelties, that sort of thing. No name, no indication where they come from.
Mary has no idea either?
No. But she's reacted to them badly. They're making her nervous, upset. There's something I can't afford to have happen.
Come again?
Mr. Regan, I can observe that there's little use in trying to keep anything back from you. My interest in the package matter is because of money.
Now the story begins to make sense.
Mary is strange. Perhaps I should have said peculiar. Her aversion to men is almost, well, I've been sending her to a Mr. Farthing, a human relations counselor.
A psychologist?
Something like that.
And it costs money?
Yes, it costs money. The more delay in cure, the more it costs. Frankly, Mr. Regan, I'm tired of the obligation.
She work?
Yes. She works at one of those drive-in stands. Carhop.
Something wrong with that?
The place is called Hamburger Heaven, Mr. Regan.
And you want me to find the guy who sends the packages so he'll marry her, or so you can get rid of him?
It works the same either way. You'll take the job, Mr. Regan?
Sure. I'll find your guy. Maybe he'll look good under your Christmas tree. Ward Hamilton gave me the girl's address in Hollywood. It was a tired stucco 4 flat just off Kingsley, the home of Mary Winter, the girl who hated men. And then it was too easy. Standing out front near the curb was a little man in a trench coat. He carried an umbrella over his arm, and he paced up and down, watching the apartment. That was too good a bet to pass up. You going somewhere?
I beg your pardon?
Someone you know lives in there?
Why, that's none of your business, sir.
The name of the friend wouldn't be Mary Winter.
Get out of my way.
That's what I thought. Hold it.
Let go of my arm. Let go, I say.
Why are you watching Mary Winter's apartment?
I warned you. Let go. Let
Answer
go.
me.
Very well. I'll answer you.
The umbrella in his hand came down on my wrist, and he broke for the corner. By the time I turned, he was out of sight. On the ground, broken, was the little man's umbrella. I picked it up. Real break. Name engraved on the handle. In nice big gold letters, it said, Smith. I headed for Mary Winter's apartment. I knocked, and nothing happened. Knocked again. The radio in the room told me somebody was in and liked their music loud. I tried the door, and it worked. I stuck my head in to look around. A redhead came in from another room, in slacks and halter. She saw me. She dived for the closet and came out wearing a coat. Then she snapped off the radio.
Get out of here!
Look, I tried knocking, but...
Get out before I call the police!
The name's Regan. Ward Hamilton sent me.
You're lying. You're trying to trick me.
Phone him. He'll tell you.
What do you want?
About the presents you've been getting. Tell me.
I'm not sure. I can't trust you.
Well, look, for the last time, I'm supposed to find out who's sending them. Either you help or you don't. Now, take your choice.
All right. I'll listen. But don't you come a step closer.
I sat down. One corner of the room. Redhead, other corner. She was tall, graceful, beautiful. Everything a guy could want. Except for the look in her eyes. Scared, hunted. I waited for her to start it.
They began several weeks ago. The presents. I don't know who is sending them or why, but
Any card? Identification?
No, nothing.
You sure?
You think I'd accept gifts from a stranger?
Take it easy. Nobody said that. What did Farthing tell you?
Farthing?
The Human Relations Counselor you go to.
Oh, you know about that?
Yeah, I know about that. What did he say?
That I shouldn't worry. That I should find out.
That all?
Oh, you don't understand. You're like all of them. Get out of here.
One question. You know a little guy about 30 carries an umbrella, wears a trench coat, shy?
No.
Are you sure? Think. A little guy.
No, I don't know him. I've never met him in my life. Get out!
I left the redhead sobbing softly to herself. Maybe a lot of flowers and candy would be kind of nice to a lot of people during Christmas, but not to Mary Winter. She was mixed up, inside and out. I headed back to my car, and then I was mixed up. It had looked easy until I got to my car. That's when I got complications. A big complication. Fat, 40, with a gun.
Get in, Shamus.
Now what?
Your choice, Shamus.
Like what?
The Winter Dame,
Your property?
Not my type.
Belong to the boss?
Question, Shamus,
Beat it, will you?
I'm not through with you.
Okay, get through.
Stay away from Mary Winter or you get trouble. Real bad trouble. Any questions now, Shamus?
Yeah. Who pays you?
You shouldn't have asked that question.
It looked like it was going to be a real holiday season. Brotherly love all over the place. The next stop was a man named Mr. Farthing. Only the sign on the door said John J. Farthing, Human Relations Counselor. It was a plush layout. Waiting room the size of a box top. Rich, solid, lined with deep green leather chairs, brass studs. On the wall, Van Gogh, Gauguin, that kind of stuff. The receptionist was out, and I took a crack at the thick mahogany door.
Yes, come in, please. What may I do for you, sir?
The name's Regan, international detective.
Oh, sit down, Mr. Regan. Now, is something troubling you?
Girl named Winter. Mary Winter.
Go on, Mr. Regan.
She's a patient of yours?
Why do you ask?
A couple of questions about her.
I see.
Since you know her background, I thought you could fill me in on a few things. I said...
I heard you, Mr. Regan.
Well?
Perhaps, sir, you're aware of the nature of my work. Since I assume you're an intelligent man, I don't believe it's necessary to be much more explicit than that.
Try it for size.
Very well. Cigarette, Mr. Regan?
Thanks.
There is in existence a code of ethics. Some practitioners call it the Hippocratic Oath. I'm not a doctor, as you know, yet I, too, Mr. Regan, have a moral code.
I'm listening.
Nothing in my code, either morally, ethically, or in any other way, allows me to discuss the affairs of my patients. Is that clear?
Yeah. That's clear.
I'm sorry I can't assist you in whatever it is you're trying to do, Mr. Regan. I'd like to help, but as you see, my hands are tied.
That makes two of us. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Mr. Farthing, gray suit, ivory cigarette holder, and gold cufflinks, stood up and shook hands solemnly. I left. He'd given me nothing. And there was only one thing wrong with that. Mr. Farthing was right. I decided to check in with my boss, Anthony J. Lyon.
The International Detective Agency, Anthony.
Save it for the customers, Fatso.
Jeffrey, where have you been?
Look, I just started this business 2 hours ago. What's eating you?
Just this. I have here in my office with me a young man. He has an interesting story, Jeffrey. It seems he's been sending gifts to one Mary Winter.
What?
That's correct, Regan, the man you're supposed to be looking for. Well, don't just stand there. Get over here at once. This young man can't wait all day for lazy detectives. And besides, he needs help.
He needs help.
And that's right, Jeffrey. The man you were supposed to find. His life's in danger.
This is CBS, and you're listening to Jeff Regan, Investigator, and tonight's adventure, Some Enchanted Carhop.
It started when a guy named Ward Hamilton hired the Lion and me to find out who was sending packages to a Carhop named Mary Winter. I met a little guy with an umbrella and a big guy with a gun, and a human relations counselor who called himself Mr. Farthing. Then I phoned my boss, Anthony J. Lyon, and found the mysterious Santa Claus who'd been sending the girl gifts had walked right into our office. When I got there, I found the Lion sitting with his fingertips touching as he talked to the man across the desk from him. Like I guessed, it was the same guy I'd seen outside Mary Winter's apartment. The little guy, 30, trench coat, and nervous.
Jeffrey, come in. I want you to meet our new client, Mr. Smith. Mr. Ernest Smith. He's in trouble.
Well, if he isn't, he should be.
Jeffrey, what on earth do you mean?
I found your Mr. Smith outside the girl's apartment. He wasn't looking for frost on those windows.
No, Mr. Regan. That's...
What Mr. Smith is trying to say, Jeffrey, is that that's not true. Mr. Smith is in real trouble.
You sell it to him?
Jeffrey, how can you say such a thing? Mr. Smith feels his life is in danger, hence he has retained us to act in his behalf.
That's true, Mr. Regan. I'll admit I sent the gifts to Miss Winter. I didn't realize,
Get to the point.
Now I'm afraid. Since I saw you this afternoon, someone's following me.
Fat guy, big coat.
Yes. I came here for help. Someone doesn't like my sending the gifts.
Well, that's real bright. Well, you can start with Mary Winter.
She doesn't like them, Mr. Regan?
Then there's a guy named Hamilton.
She's married?
We call him a guardian, family friend.
Oh.
Finish your story.
I like Miss Winter. I wanted to do something for her.
So you've been sending her anonymous presents for almost 6 weeks. Isn't that carrying the Christmas spirit too far?
Well, I like her. That's not abnormal, is it, Mr. Regan?
Yeah, of course not, Mr. Smith.
You keep out of this, Fatso.
Yeah, but Jeffrey, our client...
We got another client named Hamilton, remember? Besides, you haven't met the girl.
Neither have I.
What?
I've never met Mary Winter. Is that abnormal, Mr. Regan? Oh, dear. Dear, perhaps I'm sicker than Mr. Farthing told me.
Say that again?
Mr. Farthing, my human relations counselor, he takes care of me.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe this is going to add up. You've never met Mary Winter?
No.
No, but you've seen her. You've seen her in the waiting room of Farthing's office.
Why, Mr. Regan, how on earth did you guess? That's exactly it. She was reading a copy of Reader's Digest, and I was reading an old National Geographic. It was a fall
Never
day.
mind. Well, Lion, I think that wraps that up.
Jeffrey, what do you mean?
Mary Winter is afraid of unknown guy sending packages. Unknown guy turns out to be Smith. Take Smith to Mary, show her he's harmless. Collect our fee.
But Jeffrey, what about Mr. Smith? What about the man who's following him?
Maybe he just imagined it. Come on, Smith. We're going to visit a redhead. The Lion didn't believe Smith imagined it any more than I did. But he only sputtered, and I loaded Smith into the car and headed out to Mary Winter's apartment. It looked simple. Then, like a glass of mild eggnog. What I didn't know was that somebody had slipped me a zombie. It was turning dark when we pulled up in front of the place. Smith stayed at my heels like a sheepdog. I knocked. This time she opened the door.
Oh, Mr. Regan, what are you doing here?
Brought your Christmas present. Only this one's harmless.
Oh, no.
Take
No.
it easy, sweetheart. Just a guy named Smith. You might even like him.
No, please go away. Please go away.
Smith and I walked on in, and Mary backed into a chair in the far corner of the room. She and Smith looked at each other and didn't say anything, so I waited for the sparks to die out of her eyes. But they didn't. There was something else on her mind.
This is the man who sent the packages.
You guessed it. Smith, Mary Winter. Mary Winter, Smith.
Get him out of here.
Huh?
I said get him out of here before he kills me.
Oh, no.
Sit down. Now, just a minute, lady. He won't hurt anybody. Just take it easy, will you? Just take quiet.
That's what you're
Oh, no, I
Now,
didn't
listen,
hurt
sweetheart. Wait a minute. It's Christmas. You've heard of that, I think, haven't you? People send presents to each other because it makes them feel good. Now, Smith sent you presents for the same reason.
He's going to kill me. You're like he is, trying to trap me.
Oh, that does it.
All right. Look at this.
What, a card?
It came in a box of flowers. Was delivered here to my apartment tonight.
Each man kills the thing he loves.
Well, Regan, try and explain that. Try and
Shut
prove
up. Did you send this, Smith?
No, Mr. Regan. I didn't send it. I sent flowers and candy and nice things.
Mr. Regan, at the window!
I left them with their mouths open and ran for the hall, and then outside. The girl may have had an overworked imagination, but her mind didn't knock over that garbage can. It was dark and peaceful and still outside. Me and a half moon and nobody else. And then I saw him, thick-set, crouched, moving away from the window. I dove after him. We went down together as his hand came out of his pocket. The heavy gray .45 got itself in my direction, and I grabbed at the wrist behind him. The gun fell into the rose bush, but he got to his feet.
I warned you once, Shamus. Stay away from that girl. Who said so? Never mind that now. Get off the case now, before it's too late. It'll only mean go.
Were you going to say trouble? The big guy was 200 pounds of unconscious as I bent over him. A heavy camel hair coat was wrapped around him. The same guy I'd seen before. I unbuttoned the coat figuring some identification might help, only when it came open, I didn't need any more. He was wearing a tailored starched jacket. It wasn't the kind you see every day. It was white. That gave me the lead I needed, and I headed fast for my car. 10 minutes later, I stopped at the drugstore on my way out to the valley. I phoned the Lion and told him to check on Farthing. Then I headed the car out Cahuenga. The pass was crowded with home-from-work traffic. It took me 25 minutes to make Iredell Road and the home of Ward Hamilton. This time the Dalmatian was out for the night. But Ward Hamilton wasn't. He opened the door.
Well, Mr. Regan, come in. You work late.
Our time clock's out of order.
Oh, perhaps you'd like one for Christmas.
No, thanks. Wouldn't fit in my sock.
Well, Mr. Regan, I take it by this visit that you have good news for me.
Call it that.
You know who's been sending the girl those gifts?
A guy named Smith.
How's that again?
Smith, Ernest Smith. His birth certificate says.
I'm afraid I've never heard of him, Mr. Regan.
He saw Mary in the waiting room of Farthing's office. Never met her. Shy little guy.
Well, now isn't that something? And I must say, Mr. Regan, you did a remarkably fast job.
There's something else you ought to know, Hamilton. Chances are Farthing's a phony.
Mr. Farthing?
Looks like.
Why, it seems absurd.
Just thought I'd let you know. Want me to go on with the case?
What do you mean, Mr. Regan?
I found your guy, Smith. That's what you hired me for. And when I get to Farthing, he'll sing like a prima donna.
Sing?
Talk.
Well, then keep going.
Okay, Hamilton. It's your money.
It's your life, Mr. Regan. Be careful.
I made a fast phone call to the Lion on my way back into town, and that tied it up. Farthing was working late when I got there, only when he looked up and saw me, he wasn't happy.
What do you want?
Conversation, a lot of it.
Mr. Regan, I must ask why you've come to my office at this hour.
I told you, for conversation.
Then I may regard this whole thing as a sort of joke?
Maybe. Only the laughs you'll get wouldn't get by even on television.
I demand an explanation of your attitude.
Fair enough. Start with your name. Not Farthing, it's Farnham, Howard Farnham. You want more?
Where did you get that?
I had a phone conversation with my boss. He's got ways of getting things. Like your record. 5 arrest bunco, 1 arrest forgery, 1 arrest fraud.
No conviction.
You were lucky. Maybe you won't be this time.
You haven't got anything on me, Regan?
How about blackmail?
Not a chance.
Maybe not yet. Only you were getting set for a job. I believe the guy's name was Hamilton.
You can't prove it.
Well, it was your mug. The big guy in the white jacket. He meant business. Does he do your legwork?
Listen, Regan, you can't pin blackmail on me. Sure, maybe I had ideas, but I don't claim I'm a doctor. I don't hand out any pills. Just advice, Regan. That's all. Just advice.
That's too bad. You know, there are a lot of people that take phonies like you seriously, Farnham. A lot of people that could use advice. Real advice.
Mine's real. They say, should I marry him? And I say yes or no, depending...
On how much there is in it for you.
What do you want from me, Regan?
Who paid you to put the B on Mary Winter?
Never mind, Farthing. You won't have to answer that.
Come on in, Hamilton. I've been waiting for you.
You're bragging, Mr. Regan.
It made sense if I could get you to join Farthing and me. You might have something to say. You're showing up. Check my story.
What story?
Like this. Man named Hamilton's supposed to look out for a young redhead named Mary Winter. Only Hamilton takes one look at this number, and suddenly he's not fatherly anymore. He decides to move in for himself.
The third.
Is it? You convinced the girl she couldn't trust any man in the world but you. Should have been the other way around. You're the one she couldn't trust. Isn't that right, Farthing?
Leave me out of this, Regan. I run a legitimate business.
Leave you out? Well, that wouldn't be fair. You were the guy Hamilton came to with money. He paid you to tell Mary Winter who was the man for her. Am I right, Farthing?
You're lying, Regan.
No, I'm not. Everything worked fine until along came a nice, shy little guy with an umbrella, Mr. Smith. Met Mary in Farthing's waiting room, starting sending her presents. You know, that must have really stopped you, Hamilton, trying to figure out who was cutting in on your Romeo act.
Regan, I've had enough out of you. I thought you were getting nosy.
You hired me to find the guy, and I did. End of story. Except if anybody should happen to tell Mary Winter what kind of a guy you really are, Hamilton, you might suddenly find yourself out of a lifetime career.
You'll never tell her, Regan. I'll see to that.
Forget one item. For a last touch, you send Mary a threatening note. Really put the pressure on. You're washed up, Hamilton.
This revolver says I'm not, Mr. Regan. Well, then, come over here, out of the way. We're going to take care of Mr. Regan.
Self-defense, not a chance with Farthing's record. Am I right, Farnham?
Do as I say, Farthing.
Go ahead, Farnham, go ahead. Murder will look good on your list.
I won't play ball, Hamilton. I told the girl what you wanted, but I'm not in this. It's your fight.
I can make it yours.
Don't try it.
I am as good with this gun, gentlemen, as I am with a whip. Farnham, watch out.
Farnham ducked as I hit Hamilton's wrist. The bullet buried itself in the desk top, and the gun hit the floor. I got the gun as Hamilton moved in fast. Only what he got for his trouble was the barrel across his head. Farnham crawled up to his chair, sat down, puffing. I let him catch his breath. When I waved the gun in his direction, he didn't mind phoning the police. The heavy guy in the white jacket showed up bright and early for work the next morning, and the cop greeted him with a pair of handcuffs. He got off with assault and battery, and Farnham, alias Farthing, made the blotter for a light charge. Hamilton wasn't that lucky. His read assault with intent to kill. It was noon when I got to the Lion's office. He was admiring the Christmas tree stuck in the corner. And from the sounds that came out of his mouth, it looked like his holiday fever was becoming serious.
Nowhere. Born is the king of... Oh, hello, Jeffrey.
They're looking for a replacement for Vaughn Monroe?
Jeffrey, how unkind. It's the season for songs. Sunday is Christmas, my boy.
And today is payday.
So it is. Well, perhaps I could manage a small token, a sign of my gratitude.
Thanks.
Yeah, by the way, what about Mary Winter, the Carhop? How is the girl, Jeffrey?
Oh, I left her with Smith last night when I went after Farthing's mug.
Jeffrey, you didn't. Alone together? And that girl hating all men, and that boy shy, backwards? Jeffrey, how could you? How cruel.
It's too late now, Lion. Maybe we'll read about it in the afternoon paper.
Double murder.
Double hamburger.
What did you say?
I drove by Mary's drive-in this morning. There was a car parked there.
Jeffrey, you mean...
Little guy behind the wheel, trench coat, umbrella. He looked an awful lot like our boy Smith.
Then you talked to them?
For a minute.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Tell me, Jeffrey, tell me. What did Mary say?
She said, with or without onions. Merry Christmas, Lion.
Merry Christmas, Jeffrey.
Jeff Regan, Investigator, is written by William Frug and William Fifield, produced by Sterling Tracy, directed by Gordon T. Hughes, and stars Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. Original music is by Dick Arant. Jeff Regan, Investigator, is heard each week at the same time over CBS. Bob Stevenson speaking and inviting you to be with us again next week at this same time for Jeff Regan, Investigator. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Sound off for Chesterfield. Chesterfield, the only cigarette in America to give you premium quality in both regular and king size, brings you Dragnet.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to robbery detail. For the past 6 months, the managers of large markets in your city have been the victims of a hold-up man. You thought you had the suspect in custody. You were wrong. Your job, get him. There's only one premium quality cigarette in America, available in both regular and king size, and that is Chesterfield.
Premium quality in a cigarette means the world's best tobaccos, the best ingredients, the best cigarette paper. Only Chesterfield gives you this premium quality in both popular sizes.
King size Chesterfield contains tobaccos of better quality and higher price than any other king size cigarette. That's certainly important to every king-size smoker. Of course, it's the same fine tobacco as in regular Chesterfield. There is absolutely no difference, except that king-size Chesterfield is larger. Contains so much more of these premium quality tobaccos that you get more than a fifth longer smoke from king-size Chesterfield.
Yes, the modern way to sell cigarettes is the Chesterfield way. Premium quality, both regular and king size.
And either way you like them, Chesterfields are much milder. Chesterfield is best for you.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Saturday, March 22nd. It was cold in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of robbery detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Didion. My name's Friday. We were on our way out from the office, and it was 9:36 a.m. when we got to 4623 Linwood, bakery shop.
Yes, sir. Can I help you?
Police officers, ma'am.
Oh, yes, you want to see Mr. Jenkins. He's in the back. Right through that door.
Thank you, ma'am. How is Mr. Jenkins?
Well, he's all right. Got a bad cut on his head. The ambulance was here.
Uh-huh. Do you know if there are any witnesses?
I don't know. The other officers are checking it now, I guess.
Mm-hmm. About how long have they been here?
I'd say 10 minutes.
All right, ma'am. Thank you. Who is it? Police officer, sir. My name's Friday. This is my partner, Frank Smith.
Well, what happened to the other officer?
Well, he left, Mr. Jenkins. A couple of questions we'd like to ask you about this.
Yeah, sure. Pull up that chair there.
Thanks very much.
You feel all right, sir? Yeah, headaches a little, but I feel okay. Guy from the ambulance said I should see my own doctor. I don't know when I'm going to get time to do that. It's nothing serious, a little cut.
Yes, sir. Would you tell us just what happened here?
Sure, there's not much to it. Where do you want me to start?
Well, what time did the man come in?
Oh, I see. It must have been about 6:30 this morning. I was just frying the donuts. I heard this knock on the back door, and I let him in.
What did he look like, sir?
Well, just like the descriptions in the paper. That's how I knew it was the black masked bandit. Had the overcoat on, the hat, and the mask on his face.
Was he carrying a gun?
Yeah, it looked like a .38 revolver, long barrel.
Mm-hmm. What happened then?
Well, at first I couldn't figure it. You know, I'd read in the paper where he was robbing markets. I couldn't figure what he was doing in a bakery.
He was alone then, huh?
Yeah, at least I couldn't see anybody with him.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Well, he came in and sat down, told me to go ahead with what I was doing. Sat right over there in that chair. Mm-hmm. Leaned back against the wall and just talked.
What did he talk about, do you remember?
Just that, nothing special. Then he asked me to hand him one of the donuts I'd finished. Said he wanted one of the chocolate ones. I gave it to him. He just leaned back and ate it.
I see.
I asked him what he wanted. Why the gun, you know?
Yes.
He said he didn't want me to get any bright ideas. And he asked me how much money I had.
Yeah.
I told him I only had about $150, and he said that wasn't much. I said there wasn't, but it's all I had. And then I asked him if he was going to rob me.
What did he say to that?
He said he probably would.
Mm-hmm. All this time, did he keep the mask on?
Yeah, he never took it off.
How long was he here?
Well, he got here, like I said, at 6:30. He left about 8:15, just before Vera came in. She's the one who found me.
Vera?
Yeah, she's the girl that takes care of the store. You probably saw her out front when you came in.
Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Well, I finished up with the donuts, and then I asked him if he'd like a drink. And I said I had some brandy locked up, and I asked him if he'd like a shot.
Mm-hmm.
He said he would. I went over to get it. I keep it over there in that cupboard. And when I walked over, I had to walk right in front of him.
Yeah.
Well, you probably know it gets pretty hot in a bakery, the ovens and all. I guess he was kind of relaxed.
Yeah.
Well, when I walked by him, I grabbed his gun, took it right out of his hands, and he jumped up and told me to hand it over to him, said for me to give it back and I wouldn't get hurt. I told him he had the shoe on the wrong foot, that I was calling things now.
That's it. What'd you do then?
Well, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, if it hadn't happened to me, I'd never believe it.
What's that?
When I took the gun away from him, he looked real surprised. That's when I told him that I was the boss, and he just stood up and started to walk toward me. I told him to stop. I pointed the gun at him, told him to stay where he was.
Yeah?
But he didn't stop. He kept coming right at me. I told him again, but he kept right on walking. And then I fired at him. Well, it wasn't any farther away from him than 10, maybe 15 feet. Didn't hit him, so I pulled the trigger again. Shot right at him 6 times. Right at him. He just kept walking at me. Now, at first, I thought the shells in the gun were blanks. And then I could see where the bullets were hitting. Well, there, you can see a couple of them in the wall. I couldn't believe my eyes. I missed him every time.
What did he do right after you shot at him?
When I fired the last shot, the gun clicked a couple of times. He just stopped and laughed. He said that I'd run out of bullets and that I'd better give the gun to him.
Did you?
Yeah, I threw it at him as hard as I could. I missed him then, too. The gun hit the floor, and I could see the sparks fly, and then he picked it up and came after me. I didn't think I'd be in much trouble. He looked so little. But when he grabbed at me, I knew I'd had it. That man had hands like a vice.
Mm-hmm.
He grabbed my arm and hit me on the head right here. He knocked me out. He came to when Vera came in. The guy was gone, so was the money.
Well, where'd you keep this money?
In my pocket. I had it in my wallet. I don't usually put it in the cash register until Vera gets in.
I see. Now, you said that when the gun hit the floor, you saw the sparks fly from it. Is that right?
Yeah, you know what, like when you hit a piece of flint with another rock, like the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
Like that.
Did you notice that the gun seemed damaged in any way?
No, I didn't have time to notice anything. Right after that, he hit me.
What if you give us a description of the man?
Well, sure, like I told the other officers, he was a little man, real old.
How old would you say?
Oh, maybe 50 or so, not any younger.
You're pretty sure about that, are you?
Yeah.
About how tall?
Maybe 5'2", not any more than that. Kind of hard to tell with that big coat on. It looked like it was 5 or 6 sizes too big. Looked kind of funny at first, then you realized who he was, and it wasn't funny anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't too scared of him when I first saw him, even when he came at me, but when he grabbed my arm, I knew I had trouble.
Yes, sir.
Still can't understand it. 6 shots, and I didn't hit him once. I tell you, the guy's not human.
Well, he's scoring pretty good for a ghost. 10:02 a.m. The crew from the crime lab came out and went over the bakery. Ray Pinker removed the slugs from the wall and the floor and took them back to the lab. The bandit, as usual, had worn gloves, so there was no possibility for fingerprints. A search of the neighborhood failed to turn up any new leads. None of the people in the immediate area had seen anyone answering the description of the Black Mask Bandit. Additional supplementary bulletins were gotten out, and all of the cars in the surrounding vicinity were alerted. The stats office had made run after run on the M.O. of the bandit. The leads they gave us were all checked out. All gunsmiths were alerted in the event that the suspect's weapon had been damaged and that he might try to have it repaired. All leads were checked and rechecked. They netted us nothing. Informants were questioned and re-questioned. The plan that had been worked out for checking with the managers of the supermarkets in the city was continued. 3 weeks passed. The bandit hit again, this time a market just outside of Eagle Rock. The M.O. was the same as had been used in the previous robberies. However, in this one instance, the market didn't have a storage refrigerator, so the thief locked the manager in a back room. In locking the door, the suspect had taken off his gloves, and Leighton Prince was able to lift a partial print from the doorknob. It wasn't enough for classification, but Bergman said that if we apprehended the man, he'd be able to identify him for us. June came and went. July, August. The bandit had been operating without interference for almost a year. He'd widened his theater of operations. Reports had come in from San Francisco to Stockton, from San Diego to Pomona. In each case, the suspect seemed to know what markets were being staked out, and he stayed away from them. The legwork continued without result. Tuesday, August 19th. Frank and I checked back into the office.
Man, I never see it to fail. Every time we have lunch at Sal's, I eat too much.
Yeah, he puts out a good lunch, doesn't he?
Too good.
Want to check the book?
Right.
Anything?
Well, call from Jerry.
Informant?
Yeah. Says he can't get with me tonight. He'll call in the morning.
Friday, Smith?
Yeah, Skipper.
Yeah.
Come on in here, will you?
Right away.
Sit down.
All right. Well, what is it?
You guys been on this Black Mask thing how long now?
Well, it's going on a year, isn't it?
You're no closer to him than you were when you started.
Not much.
You know you're tying up half the men at Metro. You got this town covered like a blanket, and you still can't turn the guy.
We're doing everything we can, Skipper.
I've been telling you for the last 6 months that I wasn't going to buy that anymore. I mean it this time. Just exactly what have you got on the guy?
Well, I think you know it just as well as we do, Skipper. Description, M.O., even the partial print Bergman lifted from that place out in Eagle Rock. We've been over it 100 times. There's a lead that we haven't run out and then checked over again.
Nothing new on the information from Folsom?
No, nothing. We've had 5,000 circulars printed. They're scattered all over the country. Doesn't look like the guy's ever done time before. The way he works, you'd think he knew exactly what we were doing. We cover the markets, he hits the bakeries. We cover the bakeries in L.A., he hits in San Diego. They cover the stores, then he hits up north. Where we are, he ain't.
How about the car, the Ford?
No, nothing. We got no license.
You ever hear anything on the damaged gun?
No, he never tried to have it fixed that we can find out about. He's gotten a hold of another gun someplace. Latest reports say he's using a revolver with a 2-inch barrel.
Well, where do you stand now?
I don't know. We got every store from La Cienega to Alameda covered. From Hollywood Boulevard south to Jefferson.
Big area.
Yeah, it's a lot of stores, too. There's a cruiser car or a cop in or near every large store and bakery in that area. Every police unit in the city's looking for the guy. If he hits again, we should get him.
Hey, Friday?
Yeah, Murph.
The call just came in from Wilshire. Figured you wanted. Here you go.
Thanks.
What is it?
Yeah, we got the whole town waiting for him with open arms. Everything's set when he pulls a switch.
What is it, Friday?
A black masked bandit. He's going in for kidnapping now. The local broadcast stated that the manager of one of the big supermarket chains in the city had been taken from his home about 2:30 in the morning. The bandit forced him to drive to the store and open the safe. The thief then bound the manager and left the premises. The manager gave us a complete description of the bandit, and locals and APBs were gotten out on him. In this instance, the thief didn't use his own car. He forced the manager to drive his car to the market. The manager told us that when they'd left the house, he hadn't seen any other cars on the streets. Tuesday, August 19th, 5:20 p.m. Frank and I got in touch with Lieutenant Dick Tiernan of the Sheriff's Robbery Squad. Together with him, we worked out a plan to try to keep the homes of the managers under surveillance. In addition to this, men from the Sheriff's Department aided in canvassing the houses of the owners and managers. Each car was assigned 3 houses, while other cars covered 3 markets each. A month passed. The Black Masked Bandit hit 5 times, each time in areas which were not under direct surveillance. Friday, September 26, 5:20 a.m., we got a call at home that there had been another kidnapping, this time an elderly market manager and his wife. Frank and I drove out to see them. The radio unit had returned them to their home.
Yes?
Mr. Gunther?
That's right.
Police officers, Mr. Gunther.
Oh, yes. Come in. You have some sort of identification?
Yes, sir. Here's my ID card. My name's Friday. This is my partner, Frank Smith.
How do you do?
Mr. Gunther.
Come into the living room, won't you?
Thank you very much, sir.
Sit down. Hope you didn't mind my asking about your identification. Just the way things have been happening, you can't be too sure.
Yes, sir, we understand. And I wonder if you'd mind telling us what happened.
Sure. Awful thing. Awful. Just can't believe that a man his age would do a thing like this. Seems that he'd know not to be so cruel.
Yes, sir. Just what did happen?
Well, last night, must have been about 2 or 2:30, I woke up with this flashlight shining in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
First, I didn't know what it was. Just this real bright light, you know.
Yes, sir.
Well, right away, of course, I knew there was somebody else in the room. About that time, Agnes woke up. Agnes is my wife.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, she woke up, wanted to know what was going on. I told her I didn't know. All this time, that light didn't move. Just stayed in one place and shone right in my eyes.
Yes, sir.
Then we heard this voice tell us to get out of bed. Said he wanted me to go with him. I told him to get out of the house, that I didn't want any trouble. If he wanted money, he'd find all we had in the house right on the dresser with my wallet.
Mm-hmm. Could you see who the person was, sir?
No, not then. The light and all. But I got out of bed, and then I could see. A little old man with a black mask over his eyes.
How could you tell his age, sir?
Well, just could, that's all. Little beady eyes, and his mouth mean. Never saw a mouth like that on a young man. His voice was old, I could tell.
Yes, sir.
Well, he told me to get dressed. Said that I should hurry up about it.
Was he armed? Could you tell that?
Yes, I could see it. He was holding a gun. All this time, Agnes was yelling at him to get out of the house. She's not well, you know.
Yes, sir.
Agnes, she has a bad heart.
Uh-huh.
Been to the doctor for years. Takes pills and medicine. That's the big reason that I did what he said. I didn't want there to be any trouble to get Agnes excited.
I understand.
Well, finally I told him if he'd get out of the room and leave her alone, I'd do what he wanted. Not to give him any cause to hurt anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Then he did about the meanest thing he could have done. Told Agnes to get out of bed. Said for her to get up and get dressed and go with us. Just can't understand why he'd want to do a thing like that. Just plain meanness.
Yes, sir. Did your wife do what he said?
Well, at first she said she wouldn't do it. Really told him off. I thought he'd maybe get mad and hit her. He was mean enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I asked her to do what he wanted. Figured that'd be the easiest way of getting him out of the place. I thought that maybe I could talk him out of taking her with us, but I couldn't.
He made you leave the house then?
Yeah. Told me to get the car out of the garage, and then he and Agnes get in the back seat. Made me drive down to the store.
Did you notice any other cars in the area? Any cars parked near your house that weren't usually there?
No. On the way to the store, though, I saw a police car. I thought about trying to attract their attention. He must have thought about it, too, though.
Why'd he say that?
Well, he told me that if I did anything to call attention to us, he'd kill Agnes. I think he would have, too. I didn't do anything to get him upset.
Yes, sir.
Well, we got to the market, and he made me open the safe, and then he took the money and tied us up. I begged him not to tie Agnes. I've never done that before, Sergeant. I'm 52, and I've never begged a man for anything, but I did this time. Begged him not to kill Agnes. I knew that if he tied her up like he said he was going to, it'd kill her. Pleaded with him, but it didn't do any good. Tied her up and put that tape over her mouth. One thing I can say for him, though, just one. He called the police and told them where we were. If he hadn't done that, I think we'd have both died. Agnes almost suffocated.
Where's your wife now, Mr. Gunther?
In the other room. Doctor's with her. He gave her a sedative. Awful thing, Sergeant. I just don't know how anyone could be that mean.
No, just one reason we can think of.
What's that?
He's had a lot of practice. 11:30 a.m. We talked to Mrs. Gunther. She told us pretty much the same story that we'd gotten from her husband. The police car in the area was contacted, but they reported that they hadn't noticed the Gunther car. The unit that was patrolling the area around the store was contacted. They reported that they had checked the store at 3:15 a.m. At that time, there were no lights and no suspicious cars in the vicinity. The Black Masked Bandit had been working for over a year. In that time, he'd robbed 59 stores that we knew of. His theater of operations had taken him from Northern California right down to the Mexican border, from the desert to the beach. He'd stolen approximately $500,000. The entire nation had received communications carrying the description of the suspect. The entire facilities of the police and sheriff's departments in Los Angeles were devoted to apprehending him. Thousands of man-hours had gone into stakeouts and searches. None of them produced any results. As the case grew in importance, robbery detail began to get an average of 30 calls a day from well-meaning citizens with information. Every lead, no matter how remote, had to be checked out. This meant more hours of legwork and interrogation. Every officer in the Southland was looking for the bandit. Every car and motorcycle on the streets had his description. None of it did any good. Thursday, October 2nd, 11:05 p.m. Frank and I checked back into the office.
Well, there's another one that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. You want to fill out the reports? I'll check the book.
Yeah. Never fails, does it, Joe?
What's that?
Oh, something like this one comes along. Some people use it to get back at their neighbors. Take that deal tonight. Pretty silly, huh? I'd like to know who gave us that tip. There's something kind of sneaky about anonymous phone calls.
Well, we'd miss a lot of breaks if we didn't get them.
Yeah. You figure we're ever going to nail this guy?
Who knows? I'm getting a little punchy.
Every time we miss him, we get another pasting. Have you read the papers lately?
Well, you got to expect that, Frank. They're probably calling it the way it looks to them. There's only one way to answer them. That's to nail the guy. I'll get it. Robbery Friday. Yeah, that's... What's that? Can you speak a little louder? I can't... That's better. What? Uh-huh. When did this happen? Yeah. What's the address out there? Yeah, the street. Now, give me the number. That's right. All right, you bet. We'll take care of it. Right. Bye. Looks like something here. Market manager's son.
Yeah?
Says someone's just kidnapped his father.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
The modern way to sell cigarettes is the Chesterfield way. Premium quality in both regular and king size. And we're the only one that does it. We tell you what Chesterfields are made of to give you that premium quality in both popular sizes. Our scientists select the best materials. They select for Chesterfield the world's best tobaccos, blend them just right, and they keep Chesterfields tasty and fresh with the best of moistening agents. Now, here's something else that's completely modern about Chesterfield. People smoke Chesterfield, and we tell you what happens, scientifically but simply.
A medical specialist is making regular bi-monthly examinations of a group of people from various walks of life. 45% of this group have smoked Chesterfield for an average of over 10 years. After 8 months, the medical specialist reports that he observed no adverse effects on the nose, throat, and sinuses of the group from smoking Chesterfield.
I'd say that means real mildness. And finally, we ask you to try Chesterfield and prove what we say. Chesterfield is best for you. They're much milder to give you all the pleasure that the modern cigarette can give.
11:23 p.m. Frank and I checked the manager's name on the list. We got the address, and 7 minutes later, we pulled up in front of the store. In the rear of the store, we could see 2 men. One was dressed in a bathrobe, the other in a large overcoat with a brown hat pulled down over his eyes. Parked in front of the store was a dark blue 1951 Lincoln. We checked the car and found that it bore the registration of Donald Anderson, the manager. Frank went around to the rear door of the market, and I covered the front entrance. We waited. At 11:42 p.m., the bandits started for the front door.
All right, mister, police officer, hold it up there. Come on, drop the gun. Give it up.
right. Cover the other side of the building.
He's going for that fence, Joe.
All right, come on, mister. Give it up.
You all right, Joe?
Yeah. Come on, let's get over this fence. All right.
He's not over here.
No, we missed him. He must have got over that wall. I'll get back to the car and notify the radio units.
All right. You think you hit him?
I don't know. I might have.
Let's check the ground by the fence.
You got your flashlight?
Yeah, here it is.
Hold it, Joe. Yeah.
Here. See? By the fence.
Oh, yeah. Blood stains. Quite a few of them.
I'll stay here and check.
Okay, I'll be right back. Watch yourself.
Yeah.
Unit 1K80 to Control 1. Unit 1K80 to Control 1.
Control 1 to 1K80. Go ahead.
While attempting to arrest market bandit during commission of robbery, he exchanged fire with suspect. Suspect is known to be wounded. Suspect armed. Use caution. Suspect seen fleeing on foot. All cars in area converge on corner Figueroa and Woodlawn. Suspect described as WMA, 50 to 55 years, 130 to 140 pounds. Block off area at Vernon to Slauson. And from Figueroa to Maine. Suspect last seen going through houses at 49th and Figueroa. That's 49 and Figueroa.
Roger, 1K80. Attention, all units. Attention, all units. All units in the vicinity of 49th and Figueroa. Robbery suspect wounded while attempting robbery of market. Suspect described as WMA, 50 to 55 years, 130 to 140 pounds. Block off area at Vernon to Slauson, and from Figueroa to Main Street. Suspect last seen going through houses at 49th and Figueroa.
Unit 1K80 to Control 1. Unit 1K80 to Control 1.
Control 1 to Unit 1K80. Go ahead.
Suspect is known to be armed. Approach with caution. Use caution. Unit 1K80 to Control 1. KMA 367.
All units. Robbery suspect at 49th and Figueroa. Known to be armed. Approach with caution. Repeat. Approach with caution.
What do you figure, Frank?
Well, he's in here someplace. Let's find him.
In the next 3 hours, 37 police cars combed the area. Every possible hiding place was investigated. A house-to-house search was started. Citizens were asked to lock their doors and to open their homes to no one. In one of the yards, we found the hat and coat worn by the suspect, but apparently he'd made good his escape. Broadcasts were gotten out to the entire city, putting them on the alert. Additional officers were sent to the blockaded area to help with the search. Captain Didion came out from the office to direct the operations. 3:30 a.m. The area had been checked and rechecked. No sign of the suspect. Frank and I went back to our car.
I don't know, Joe. The guy's got us jinxed. Seems like everything we do, he's got us beat.
It doesn't make much sense, does it? We got to turn him sometime.
Yeah, we've been saying that for a year. Didion was sure in a rare mood tonight.
Well, he's got trouble with his stomach again.
I'm going to have trouble with mine if this keeps up much longer. Joe, car.
Yeah, take the other side of it.
All right.
All right, come on out of the car, mister. Come on, we know you're there. Get out.
Get out of here, cops!
Come on, throw that gun out here. You can't go anywhere. Give it up before you get killed.
I ain't coming out. Don't you try coming after me.
You haven't got a chance. I dropped that gun.
All right. All right, I quit. Got no more shells. I can't fight anymore. I quit. Please don't shoot anymore.
All right, throw that gun out here. Come on. All right, now get out of the car. Keep those hands up. Put them behind your head. Now, come on over here. Turn around. Put your hands against the car. Straight out in front of you. I'll shake.
Hey, you going to call an ambulance for me? I'm hurt. Can't you see I'm hurt? Ain't you going to do anything for me?
It's clean, Joe.
Here.
Get your hands behind you.
Want to put in a call for the ambulance?
Right.
You didn't have to shoot. I would have stopped if I'd known you was cops.
You got trouble with your ears?
No.
We told you we were officers. You built this thing. We just went along with you.
A lousy deal anyway. I should have stopped. I should have quit when I was ahead. If I'd have stopped, you guys would have never caught me. Never.
They're on the way, Joe.
Good. What's your name, mister?
Jerry. Jerry Rogers.
How old are you?
35.
All this time we're looking for an old man. How do you figure it, Joe?
I don't know. Gray hair, big overcoat, and that mask. Witnesses didn't get too good a look at him.
Yeah.
You ever been arrested, Rogers?
Yeah, once. Isn't that ambulance ever going to get here?
It's coming. What'd you fall for?
Huh?
What were you arrested for?
Drunk driving. Oh, I should have quit. I should have laid off.
Yeah, it's too bad you didn't figure it that way a little sooner.
Look, I don't want any morals. When's that ambulance going to get here?
Don't worry about it, Rogers.
Huh?
You've got a lot of time.
story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On February 4th, trial was held in Department 87, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Let me tell you again why Chesterfield is best for me and for you. Now you have scientific evidence on the effects of smoking. No adverse effects on the nose, throat, and sinuses of the group from smoking Chesterfield. And remember, Chesterfield is the only cigarette to give you premium quality in both regular and king size. I'd like you to buy Chesterfields and prove that Chesterfield is best for you. Regular or king size, they're much milder to give you all the pleasure the modern cigarette can give.
Gerald Stephen Rogers was tried and found guilty of 12 counts of robbery in the first degree and 4 counts of kidnapping. He was sentenced to life imprisonment in the state penitentiary, San Quentin, California.
Ladies and gentlemen, the National Safety Council reminds you to make sure your car is really in shape for winter driving. Check headlights, windshield wipers, tires, and brakes. And then winterize your driving. Get the feel of the road when you start out. Keep well behind the car ahead. Instead of slamming on brakes and starting a skid, pump your brakes to slow down or stop. And always take your time in wintertime.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Ralph Moody, Harry Bartell, Jack Crucian. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Sound off for Chesterfield. Either way you like them, regular or king size, you'll find premium quality Chesterfields much milder.
Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Tonight, it's Adventure with Barry Craig, confidential investigator on NBC.
Pat Novak, for hire.
Sure, I'm Pat Novak, for hire. That's what the sign out in front of my office says. Pat Novak for hire. It's about the only way to make a living down on the waterfront in San Francisco. Because around here, a set of morals won't cause any more stir than Mother's Day in an orphanage. Maybe that's not good, but that's the way it is. And it wouldn't do any good to build a church down here, because some guy'd muscle in and start cutting the wine with wood alcohol. All you can do is try to make the books balance, and the easiest way to do that is keep one hand on your billfold and the other hand on somebody else's. Oh, I rent boats and do anything else that'll buy a warm winter. It works out all right. It saves the government a lot of money. But if anything goes wrong, your trouble comes hard. It doesn't do any good to sing the blues, because down here, you're just another guy in the chorus. I found that out Wednesday afternoon. It started to rain up by Pier 19, and I knew there was a storm on the way. The bay looked flat and smoothed over, but you can say that for a lot of quarrels. So I closed the office and walked down to the barber shop for a shave. The barber lathered me up so I couldn't answer back and started to tell me how Dean Atchison ought to handle things. About 5 minutes later, somebody walked into the shop and started tapping my foot. He got tired of that and moved up to my chest.
Hey, you listening?
Hey.
Stop pushing. That's my chest, not a buzzer.
Are you listening?
Yeah. What's on your mind?
Hey, I want to talk to you alone.
He's a barber. He won't listen.
Let's go alone.
All right, let's go. I'll be back in a minute.
How do you like that? I got a 14 costume white. He says... I want to hire you tonight. Will you do something for me?
Not for friendship.
I give you $200 to follow a woman.
I've done it for less.
Not this kind. Her name is Agnes Bolton. You'll find her at 7 o'clock tonight down at this bowling alley. Here's the card. Address is there.
How do I spot her? Read it off an ankle bracelet?
You won't have any trouble. She's a large woman, about 50 years old, with a reddish face.
Oh, that's no help. For 50, she sounds normal.
Not Agnes. She couldn't pass for 90. She'll be playing in the last alley with a women's team called the Playmores.
Yeah?
You'll follow her out of the bowling alley. Somewhere along the line, she'll pick up a green leather bag. After that, I need your help.
It doesn't sound like love.
You'll go to the yacht harbor. Get aboard a boat called Seventh Heaven. I want you to have your boat ready and follow her into the bay. She'll leave that bag aboard some ship. I want to know the name of it.
Now, is that $200 worth?
Yes. I'll wait for you in your office. Contact me there and be careful.
Is she that tough?
No, but her friends are.
With a figure like that, how come she's got any?
They're holdovers. Now, just be careful.
Yeah, well, it sounds easy at these prices.
That depends on your luck, Mr. Novak. If it turns bad, you've been cheating.
He stood at the door for a minute, and his eyes swept the shop like a $10 broom. And then he turned around and walked off. Well, you couldn't tell anything from his face, and his smile was as smooth as a pound of liver in a bucket of glycerin. Well, after I finished, I went down to Pier 19, and I took the boat up to the yacht harbor. I tied up near the Seventh Heaven, and I started downtown to that bowling alley. It was ladies' night, and I stood against the back rail and watched the women bowl. Most of them were wearing slacks, and if I ever get a few bucks ahead, I know the right business. At least the demand is there. About 10 minutes after I got there, Agnes Bolton showed up, and I knew right away Max Hunter overrated her. She was at least 50, because you can't get that ugly without years of practice. She was wearing a green woolen dress, and her figure wasn't any worse than a bale of cotton somebody's cut the wire on. The fat hung down from her arms, and there was so much of it you knew even her bones were plump. And Max was right about her complexion. It was red and scratchy as if she used a bag of sand for cold cream. Well, I must have stood there about 10 minutes watching them bowl when the other girl came up. I didn't see her, but I felt her as she brushed up against me from behind. She leaned on the railing close to me, and when she started to talk, it was like grafting a hot iron onto your spine.
You look sad, Mr. Novak. Is it the view?
What are you, the repair squad?
No. I want you to do me a favor.
You do me one. Slide over. I bruise easy.
Oh?
Now, what's on your mind?
I want you to do me a favor. Don't follow Agnes Bolton.
You're pretty, but I got Max Hunter's dough.
I'll help you spend it. Don't let Agnes Bolton get to that boat.
Look, Angel, go warm up an armory. I got a deal.
Suppose I tell Agnes Bolton you're going to follow her.
You tell her first without tagging by here. Now, if you got something on your mind, lay it on the line or relax.
I want her worse than Max Hunter does. When she gets that green bag, I want you to bring her to me.
I couldn't move her that far. You better rent a derrick.
Please, Mr. Novak. It's important to me. I want to talk to Agnes Bolton. I can give you more money than Max Hunter.
You haven't got enough to cover, lady. You're talking about kidnapping, and that's a federal rap. The answer's no.
You're sure?
Unless you want to change the offer.
I hope you make it, darling.
I may.
Don't bet your $200. It's bad to die broke.
Is anybody that tough?
Now it's my turn to brush you off. Go ahead and follow her, Mr. Novak. But I'll bet you have to roll her the last couple of miles. And unless you can prove it's an election bet, the police will cause you trouble.
Well, I watched her as she turned her back and walked out of there. She looked real good. She was wearing a tight jersey dress that gave you the idea she either thought the weather was warm or she wasn't much on details. Well, I turned around and looked for Agnes Bolton. The game was breaking up, and she started into the dressing room. A few minutes later, she came out and started down Market Street. There was no trouble following her. You could see her in the crowd. And she rolled from side to side as she walked, and when she bumped into anybody, they looked back at her as if they'd been hit in the chest with a sack of jelly. She crossed the street at Stockton and went into a little coin shop. She came out about 5 minutes later with a green leather bag. She strapped it over her shoulder, and she held onto her purse with the other hand. At Powell Street, she got on the cable car up near the front. I moved up there to be safe. She looked heavy enough to tip a cable car uphill. In that light, she didn't look any better. Part of her hair had come undone and hung down in her face like the branches on a dead tree. I noticed her eyes for the first time. They were small and so close together they could have saved time and put them in one socket. Well, she got off the cable car at Geary and walked into a hotel. I followed her and watched her squeeze into a telephone booth on the other side of the lobby. The way she fit, a sardine ought to be happy. She took some money out of her purse and started to dial. A couple of people moved in front of her, and I didn't get a look at her for about 5 minutes. And when they moved away, she was still talking to somebody. I looked up about 10 minutes later, and I knew something was wrong. Her head was pressed against the phone. She'd run out of conversation. I walked across the lobby and opened the door to get to the phone booth. She fell out as old as she'd ever get. There, hey, help me get her over to the couch, will you?
Yes, sir. Was she your wife?
Well, if she was, this is the way I'd want her.
Her purse is spilled all over the floor. Sure is a mess.
Yeah.
She's some relative, huh?
Look, mister, stop trying to pair us up. I was around when she tumbled out, that's all.
Yeah. What'd she die from?
I don't know.
I just figured you might know what she died from.
No, I don't.
That's a simple question to answer when you know what she died from.
All right, let me through here. Come on. All right, stand back. Give her air.
She can't use anymore, Copper.
Huh?
She quit about 5 minutes ago.
Who are you?
I'm not dead. She is.
Then who's she?
You better check on her stuff, and don't forget that green bag.
Yeah. What bag?
The green bag over there on the floor. Well, it was over there a minute ago.
The same one the little guy had?
What little guy?
The one who was talking to you. He just walked out of here carrying a green bag.
Oh, I got out on the street, and the little man had just crossed Geary. He turned and looked back once, and I saw him melt into the crowd and disappear quick like the wake of a ship on a dark night. When I came back to the lobby, the copper was over to the couch making noises in his throat as if he was trying to eat a pound of cellophane. The manager of the hotel was wringing his hands and making little steps like a ballet dancer with a hot foot. The copper took my name, put in a call to homicide, and a few minutes later, I got into that phone booth. There was a number on the pad, and I took it down. It was Greystone 42961. Well, it didn't prove much, but Agnes Bolton wasn't out to prove much tonight. I began going through the phone book, but there was no Max Hunter listed, and when I called the office, nobody answered. I knew there was as much chance of him showing up as a second piece of butter on a 50-cent lunch. I ran down that Greystone number and found out it was an address out on Post Street. I walked through the lobby and out the side door. Some of the people were out of the dining room, and they looked mad because Agnes Bolton had died during the roast beef instead of later. Well, I walked down Geary to the Union Square garage and gave the guy my ticket. He started down the ramp for the car, and I stood there waiting. I must have looked lonely, because Hellman from Homicide shoved up near the cashier's cage and started over. He made his way through the cars, and as he squeezed by the last one, he looked like a sea lion.
Hello, Novak. We identified her.
Well, you had lots to work with, Hellman.
Where are you going?
Out on Post Street.
I'll go with you. Her name was Agnes Bolton.
You read it somewhere?
She was a government agent.
They got their money's worth.
Coroner says she died of quick poison.
How quick?
5 minutes.
You're working him too hard, Hellman.
He's got a license. He says 5 minutes.
She was in that phone booth 10 minutes. Nobody got to her.
She looked dead to me, Novak. I don't believe you.
Well, I'm hurt.
I don't believe a thing you say.
That's up to you. I'm not starting a religion, Hellman. I watched her for 10 minutes. Nobody got to her. You better check on that little guy.
Yeah?
She was carrying a green bag. A little guy walked out of there with it.
He sounds hard to find. You don't.
Hey, mister, is this your ticket?
Yeah, it's a blue nag.
You better come down and drive it up.
Why?
I can't get to the wheel. The guy on there won't move.
Huh?
I don't blame him either. When you're dead, you got a right to rest.
Hellman stood there a minute, wiping his teeth with his tongue, and it began to sound like somebody beating the bathtub with a piece of steak. When he finished making noises, we walked down the ramp to the car. It was the little guy who had taken the green bag. He was hunched over, and he was grabbing the wheel as if he'd just married it. Hellman lifted his head up and laid him across the seat. The light was bad, but you could see a little of his face. There was watering around his forehead, and the damp hair was plastered down under his hat brim. The perspiration had broken up and started to run down his forehead like tears, and you got the idea he cried out of his hairline instead of his eyes. He didn't look surprised or pained. He just stared with a puzzled look as if he'd missed part of the conversation. Hellman stood there trying to wipe some egg off his coat and turning to look at the guy to make sure he didn't leave.
So what happened, Novak?
So he had an automobile accident, Hellman. I don't know.
He's your passenger?
He bummed the ride himself. When I saw him, he was on his way with that green bag.
Where is it?
He got talked out of it. You better check on a guy named Max Hunter.
Whose cousin is he?
He gave me $200 to tail Agnes Bolton. I got another offer, too.
Yeah?
A blonde biscuit, and she said everything on the beat.
For a total stranger, you sure met a lot of people.
You better meet a lot of them, too, Hellman, because one of them got to Agnes Bolton.
How about Junior here? Did he crawl down the ramp and die on your seat covers?
I don't know how he got here.
Well, maybe you left him here and forgot.
No, he wouldn't slip my mind. I haven't murdered anybody in the front seat.
Well, but it's lively, though. You better get a story, Novak.
You already got mine, Hellman.
You won't like the ending.
No, but I'll bet you do.
I like it fine, Novak. You're the only lead on Agnes Bolton. I'll shop around and get enough to pin you down.
You couldn't pin down a dead butterfly, Hellman. You better look up Max Hunter and check on a boat called the Seventh Heaven.
I will, and I'll put a tail on you, Novak. Follow you all over San Francisco. He'll go any place.
That's fine, because I got a suggestion. As soon as Hellman left, I took a cab out to that address on Post Street, but it was a waste of time. I might as well have been peddling tip sheets in a monastery. There was a brown house on the corner, and there was a big curved window that stuck out from the rest of the house like a wart on the back of your neck. A toothy old man answered the door and said he didn't know Agnes Bolton. I was pretty sure he was on the level. He just kept nodding his head and rubbing the wrinkles on his face. There were enough of them there to bundle up and sell as a canal. I left no downtown. On the way, I went by the yacht harbor, and the Seventh Heaven had moved out into the stream. Well, it was raining harder now, and the docks looked shiny as if somebody had given them a coat of egg white. Well, I had a couple of places to hit, so I looked up Jocko Madigan. He's a good guy who never learned that if you keep your foot on a bar rail for 20 years, it'll do more good for your arches than it will for your brain. I finally found him in the hunt room of the Bellevue Hotel.
A drink for Mr. Novak. Something to take off the chill.
No, I don't want a drink, Jocko, and you've had enough, too.
I refuse to shiver to death, Patsy. I'd look terrible with a blue face.
Will you stop drinking, Jocko?
I hate whiskey, Patsy, but I'm drinking tonight with a purpose. I made a deal with Charlie the bartender to buy every 8th drink, and I've got him on the run. By morning, I'll have him in bankruptcy court.
Look, Jocko, I'm in trouble.
I always know when I've had enough to drink, Patsy. When I tilt the glass up, the rim rubs against the bridge of my nose. It's a sort of safeguard, so that when my nose begins to break out in blisters, I know I've had enough for the night.
Will you listen?
Patsy, you sound like a young girl coming home from boarding school. You'll never be on the right side of things. You'll always be in trouble because you're a bad citizen. You're a shabby half-step in the march of progress.
All right, Jocko.
You don't know the difference between good and evil. For you, all of human endeavor is a vague blur in high heels, and your vocabulary is a few gutter terms sandwiched in between yes and no. You'll never be any good, Patsy.
Yeah.
You might as well try to recapture melancholy or ventilate a swamp. You haven't a chance, Patsy. You'll never be any good.
Are you all through, Jocko?
Yes, if you're going to be touchy.
Hellman wants me on a murder rap.
Yes?
Some tubby woman died in a hotel lobby.
Sounds like his mother.
She was a government agent. I followed her in there.
Patsy, you've got to start trusting the government.
I was paid to follow her, but she ate some poison somewhere along the line.
That's the trouble with food.
I got hired by a guy named Max Hunter.
Look him up and resign. That's the best way out of this thing.
I don't know where to find him, and I think that Max Hunter's a phony. Oh, you got to help me.
Yeah?
Now, he gave me this card. His prints must be on it. Check it down at headquarters, will you? Find out if he's got a record and then tag by my place.
Yes, I better have a drink first. There's an ugly taste in my mouth. I think it's saliva.
Will you hurry up, Jocko? All you do is drink.
That's all I have left, Patsy. I'm too young to die and too old to do almost anything else.
Yeah, sure.
It's true, Patsy. When you get to be my age, most of the quiet pleasures are fattening, and most of the active ones would kill me. Good night, lover.
When I left Jocko, I dropped by the Chronicle morgue to look up Max Hunter. There was nothing under Hunter. I looked through every Max from Bear back to Beer Bum, and I couldn't find a thing. Well, it was close to 11 when I rode down to the office for a final check. It wasn't raining hard anymore. It was a nice, easy drizzle, and you could hear it playing against the sheds along Pier 19. It sounded quiet, almost private, like the sound a woman makes when she runs her fingernail up and down her stocking. It got on your nerves at first, and then you began to enjoy it. The minute I got to the door, I knew something was wrong. There wasn't any reason, but I got the feeling. The same way you know sometimes when you're going to get the busy signal on the phone. I could see her lying there on the floor before I turned on the light. You took one look at her, and you knew she was the sort of girl whose name ought to be Pearl or Myrtle. Somebody'd sapped her, and she was lying with one hand stretched out and the other under her hair. It wasn't really hair. It looked more like a pelt or a raccoon just after a shampoo. It was fuzzed up on the sides, and on top she'd combed it back so tight it was about to go under the scalp. She began to move a little. When I bent over, she started to mumble.
What do you want?
The rent, if you're going to stay long. Here, put your head up.
Are you Mr. Novak?
It's too late to change.
Where's Agnes Bolton? Where'd she go, Mr. Novak?
I don't know where she went. Was she a good girl?
Something's happened to her.
Don't worry, it won't happen again. Who sent you here, Max Hunter?
Yeah. Please help me out.
All right, come on.
I'm Francine Kane. I came to find out about Agnes Bolton.
You're a deep sleeper. What happened?
You wouldn't know her.
I would if she's a tall blonde on the make for that green bag. Who is she?
Joan Hayward. You can find her at the Geary Theater.
She an actress?
Not exactly.
Yeah.
Her stray talents, Mr. Novak, are dimensional rather than dramatic. If you're smart, you'll stay away from her.
Don't tell him anymore, Fran. He's paid up.
Hello, Hunter. You oversold me.
You give me back the $200.
I'm going to give you lots for your money.
Don't include Agnes Bolton. I don't know anything about her.
Is that a lie?
Might be. There's a green bag.
Joan Hayward has it.
Is that a lie?
The little guy didn't think so. She left him dead in my car.
Let's go, Fran.
Now, you're in a hurry, Max.
You're not. I hope you like your office, Novak.
Huh?
Because this is where you're going to spend the night.
Don't let him feel bad, lady. It must have been his turn. When I left, he was crumpled up against the desk, and she was staring down at him as if she forgot to water the plants. When I rode by the Geary Theater, it was dark, so I looked up Joan Hayward's address. When I got out to her place, I knew I'd made a mistake. The landlady clutched her bathrobe like a bar of solid gold and told me Joan Hayward left the house 10 minutes ago. There was a cabbie at the corner, and he said he dropped her at the Gold Bar Club a few minutes before. I got down there about 1 o'clock, and Hellman was wandering around, stopping every few feet as if he expected to hear something. The bar was dark except for a light over on one side, and over near the jukebox, Joan Hayward was stretched out as dead as a deer on a fender. At first, Hellman didn't pay any attention when I walked in. I stood there for a while and looked at Joan Hayward. She still looked pretty, except in the dim light her skin looked coarse and reminded you of a piece of felt that was almost worn out. But the rest was all right, and Hellman came over for another look.
What did you forget, Novak?
My black tie. How'd it happen?
The bar was closed. Where were you?
Crawling out from under your thumb.
Yeah. We're going to keep that coroner. It was quick poison.
Yeah.
We found a needle in her coin purse. She didn't know about it and ran into trouble when she started to call up.
You better find this guy, Max Hunter.
That's going to be hard.
Yeah?
There is no Max Hunter.
Does she believe that?
Your Schicker friend came in with a card. We went over the fingerprints. They belong to Jackie Wren. He's wanted for espionage.
For more than that now, Hellman.
Maybe. Where have you been?
Look, Hellman, stop needling me. I won't go on the block for her.
Don't you like her?
I got an alibi you can't break. I've been all over town. Ask your tail. Ask your tail where I've been.
Well, that won't get it.
Huh?
He reported in at 11:30. You got the wrong idea, Novak. You don't rate overtime.
When I left there, I knew everything was downhill. Hellman could stick me for everything but Dan McGrew. My only out was to find Jackie Wren, but you can't ring that many doorbells in one night. I went through the book, but there was no Jackie Wren or Max Hunter listed. I went home to get some sleep, and if they turned Gabriel loose tonight, that was all right with me. Jocko called up about 9 and said there was still no trace of Wren. Well, some mornings you can't trust yourself with a razor, so I got dressed and went down to a Greek's on Geary Street for breakfast. The murder was all over page 1, but there were so many pictures of Hellman you couldn't tell who was dead. I was about halfway through breakfast when I noticed a story down in the corner. A girl named Toni Pritchard had been found dead out in the marina. The story said everybody liked her. The police didn't have a lead, and they couldn't find a reason. It seemed kind of funny, but when I got to the last paragraph, I began to wonder. It said she was employed by the Musitone Company and worked the late shift as a switchboard operator. I wasn't sure, but you can't pass the dice when you only got $1 left, so I jumped down to see Frank Lupo. He said the Musitone Company owned the jukebox in the Gold Bar Club, but it worked like all the rest. People use a little microphone in front of the box. They call into a main switchboard for songs. I grabbed Jocko, and we got up to the Musitone Company. The guy in charge said, sure, they recorded some of the talk just to check on the girls, and sometimes the girls did it just for laughs. Well, we started through the recordings, and about half hour later, Jocko rolled a 7.
No, Patsy, they're all old ones. Try this.
Yeah. Well, put it down. I'll handle the needle.
There.
Crazy, Jackie. She'll know something's wrong.
Let me handle it, friend.
She'll get into trouble. I don't want you to get into trouble, Jackie.
Will you let me worry? You get back to the hotel. I'll meet you at the Kenwood right after.
It's too late. She's coming now. I can go as soon as you call, Jackie.
You made a mistake, Joe. It's one time you shouldn't have hurried.
That's enough, Jocko. Let's get up to Kenwood.
Why don't we think it over a while?
Put the record down and come on there at the Kenwood. You heard the shots.
That's what I'm worried about. If that fellow's any kind of a mechanic, he's had time to reload.
I got down to headquarters and told Hellman why that girl, Tony Pritchard, lost her vote. We rode out to the Kenwood, and Hellman started through the register. There was no Jackie Wren listed, and we didn't have any better luck with the girl. I briefed the desk clerk, and he said he thought there were 2 people in the hotel who looked like that, but he didn't know their names. Well, all we could do was wait for him to show. So Hellman and I walked down the street and slid into the car. Must have been about 3 o'clock, and for the next 4 hours we sat in there. About 7 o'clock it began to rain harder. It wasn't easy to see the front of the Kenwood. I got out to wipe the windshield, and that was a mistake, because just then the door of the hotel swung open. The girl came out first, and then Jackie Wren. He saw me right away, and the 2 of them jumped over to the curb and got into a car. Riding with Hellman's just about as safe as eating an arsenic sandwich. When we got to the corner, they turned east and started down Bush. It wasn't easy to stay behind them. The rain was hitting the windshield, and it was like trying to see through a mint julep. When we got past Jones, Hellman began to close in. It must have scared Wren too much, because it stopped and he swung the car around with Hellman a few feet behind, and it was a dead end both ways.
You can't get out now. Open the door.
Yeah. There he is, over to the wall. Over here, Hellman. He'll go down that embankment on the other side.
Oh, you can't. It's too steep. Stay on this side. Can you see him?
No. But he's around, I think.
You got a chance now, Wren. Come on out.
I don't like you that well, mister.
Over there by the embankment. Can you see the girl?
She's with him.
Over to one side. Move up in front.
Oh, you're confused, Hellman. I pay the taxes.
It's gonna hurt from now on, Wren. I'm coming over.
I hope you make it, copper. All right, copper. Unless you want a medal, I'm through.
You don't need the gun, then. Get rid of it. Just toss it over there.
I can't even lift my arm.
Throw it down, mister.
Jackie, please.
I threw it right at you, copper. Francine, you crazy woman. You crazy. You let him kill me.
He's going over that embankment.
You let him kill me right in front of you. No, Jackie. Please, Jackie, I tried to stop you. Jackie.
Grab her, Novak. She's going over.
Leave me alone. Go on in. But, Jackie, I want you.
Grab her.
I want you, Jackie. At least they can let me have this. Jackie!
A long way down.
Yeah. Too bad her name wasn't Jill. Last I saw Francine, she was lying down at the bottom in the rain. Her head was over to one side, and you knew with a little push it'd roll around as easy as a ball bearing on a plate. Her face was clean, but the rain was beginning to wash the dirt down, and when I left, she wasn't pretty anymore. Jackie Wren outlasted her by a few hours, and Hellman used them all. Agnes Bolton was carrying government papers bound for China. The 4 people were split into teams. Jackie Wren and Francine were trying to outbid Joan Hayward and the little guy. The way Jackie had it figured, he'd find out what ship they were going out on and pick it up from there. Joan Hayward knew he was dealing with me, so she followed me after I left that barber shop. She saw me park the car in that garage and tailed me down to the bowling alley. She planted the needle in Agnes Bolton's purse, and the little guy tagged along behind waiting for something to happen. Just to be on the safe side in case anything went wrong, Joan doubled by the office and gave Francine a headache. When the little guy got the green bag, he took it to Joan. It was too good to split, so she killed him and left him in my car. Well, then she made a mistake. When Jackie called her up and asked her to come down to the Gold Bar Club, she bought the story. Oh, it would have worked out fine for Jackie if he hadn't talked in front of that microphone. But a nosy girl heard it and tried to put the screws on him. Well, Hellman asked only one question. About that conversation between Jackie and the girl. Why would a person say anything that private in front of a microphone? I don't know. But I told him about a couple of others Jocko and I heard. He didn't say anything, but I'll bet he gets a hold of those records and plays them every night before he goes to sleep.
Sound off for Chesterfield. Chesterfield, the only cigarette in America to give you premium quality in both regular and king size, brings you Dragnet.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to forgery detail. A check forger has been hitting the merchants in your city. From the M.O. she uses, you know she's an expert. You've got a description. Your job, get her. There's only one premium quality cigarette in America, available in both regular and king size, and that is Chesterfield.
Premium quality in a cigarette means the world's best tobaccos, the best ingredients, the best cigarette paper. Only Chesterfield gives you this premium quality in both popular sizes.
King-size Chesterfield contains tobaccos of better quality and higher price than any other king-size cigarette. That's certainly important to every king-size smoker. Of course, it's the same fine tobacco as in regular Chesterfield. There is absolutely no difference, except that king-size Chesterfield is larger, contains so much more of these premium quality tobaccos that you get more than a fifth longer smoked from king-size Chesterfield.
Yes, the modern way to sell cigarettes is the Chesterfield way. Premium quality, both regular and king size.
And either way you like them, Chesterfields are much milder. Chesterfield is best for you.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, From crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, February 6th. It was cool in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of forgery detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Welsh. My name's Friday. I was on my way back from the forgery office, and it was 10:22 a.m. when I got to the mudroom.
I'm sure about it, officer. If I ever see that woman again, I'll know her. Don't you have any doubt about it, I'll know her.
Yes, ma'am. Now, if you'll just look through this book, please.
Have you seen anyone who might be the woman, Miss Parkinson?
No, not yet, Sergeant, but if she's got her picture in here, I'll find it for you. Never forget that face. So sweet and kindly. Sort of reminded me of my mother, rest her soul. I think that's why I cashed the check for her. I never would have done it if there hadn't been something like that.
Yes, ma'am. I wonder if you'd mind running over it again for us. Might have been something you forgot, maybe?
No. I wouldn't forget anything about her, but I can tell you about it if you'd like.
All right, fine, Miss Parkinson. If you just start at the beginning again.
Fine. Would you mind calling me Ethel? I don't much care for formality. Feel better when people call me by my given name.
Yes, ma'am. If you go right ahead, please.
Well, this morning's when I found out about it. Like to keeled right over when the check came back from the bank. Opened up the other mail, mostly from people who want to sell me things for the store, and there it was. Letter from the bank with a check inside. Stapled to one of those forms, you know, the kind they just check with a pencil.
Uh-huh.
Well, like I said, there it was. Place that was checked said the account was unknown. Well, you can just bet I got on the phone and called the bank people.
Yes, ma'am, we understand.
I told them they'd made some sort of mistake, that they'd better set it right. I was so sure that she wouldn't do a thing like this. Well, you know how banks are. They said they'd check it for me, and I waited on the phone while they did. And they said it wasn't any mistake. Well, you can just bet that I was hopping mad.
Yeah, well, what kind of identification did the woman use to get you to cash the check?
Well, she had several letters from her son. At least that's who she said they were from. I just bet she hasn't even got a son. Well, sir, I'll bet she hasn't.
Well, do you usually cash checks with that little identification?
No, I don't, as a rule. Usually ask for a driver's license and a Social Security card. Figure that if a person's got one of those, that means that he's working. Figures that the check is good.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's not always true, you know, ma'am.
Well, don't I know it now? You just bet I do. Last time I'll cash a check for anyone that I haven't known for 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Had you seen this woman around your store before this time?
I've been trying to think about that. The shop isn't very big, but we do a pretty good business. Sometimes there are several people waiting. Get in a hurry, you know, and you aren't sure who you talk to.
Yes, ma'am.
Seems to me I've seen her in the store before, but when I stop and really think about it, I'm not too sure. You know how that is?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
When you boil it right down, I don't think I have seen her before. She just had one of those faces that you figure sure you know. Looked like such a lovely person.
I see. About how old do you figure she was, ma'am?
Well, like I said, I guess about 62, maybe a little older.
Uh-huh.
Might have been 65. Not much over that, though. Such pretty hair. Pure white, had it fixed in a real soft wave over her forehead. Old-fashioned kind of. Wore it in a bun, you know.
Ma'am?
Bun. Had the hair all rolled up and then pinned up back. Here. Back of her neck.
It was white, you say? Her hair was white?
Yes. Looks so nice to see a woman act and look her age. So many of them try to look younger, you know.
Yes, ma'am. How about her clothes?
Oh, she was well-dressed. Had a sort of teal blue suit on, a black coat. Looked kind of like it might have been cashmere. Looked real nice. Little string gloves and all.
You say she was a small woman, is that right?
Yeah, she was little. Stood real straight, you know, shoulders back. But she was a little one, not more than 5'1" or maybe 2.
Mm-hmm. Would she be slight or heavy?
Beg pardon?
Well, how much would you say she weighed?
Maybe 100 pounds. Say she wasn't much heavier than that. No, sir, 100 pounds.
Was there anything unusual about her, anything that might make her stand out?
No, I don't think so, except maybe it was the perfume.
Ma'am?
Perfume, you know, how you kind of expect a little old lady to wear something kind of mild like violet, maybe. Something light.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, she had a real heavy perfume on. Smelled kind of like a French scent. Real heavy, like I said. It was one thing I couldn't figure out.
What's that, ma'am?
Well, she did have nice clothes and all, but all in all, she didn't look like she had a lot of money. Just moderate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that perfume must have been expensive. Must have cost a lot.
Well, I guess she's making enough to afford it, ma'am. 10:34 a.m. Mrs. Parkinson continued to look through the mug books. She was unable to identify the woman who had passed the bad check. The merchants of the city had been victimized for the past 3 weeks by a forger. All of them described her as a kindly old lady using letters from her son in the East as identification. Frank and I had run the description we'd gotten through R&I with no result. The stats office had made several runs on the M.O., and all leads furnished by them had been checked out, but they led us nowhere. We'd obtained copies of the forged checks, and they'd been processed by Don Meyer in handwriting, but he'd been unable to offer us any new information. The names on each of the checks were different. We checked each of them out, but the leads went nowhere. All of the stores in the central area had been alerted. Descriptions had been distributed to the neighborhood merchants, but the check passing continued. We checked with our informants, but they failed to come up with any information. 2 weeks passed. The woman hit 12 more times. Her take was estimated to be over $2,500. The checks she passed were always for the same amount, $50. When it seemed necessary, she would purchase merchandise in order to cash the check. The articles she chose were in a price range so that the store owner would often cash the check rather than lose the sale. Thursday, February 21st, 8:34 a.m. Frank and I got back to the office. I'll get it. Forgery, Friday. Yeah. All right, where? How soon? All right. No, we'll see you there.
What is it?
Harry Allenson.
Informant?
Yeah, says he wants to see us right away.
Yeah.
Says he knows the woman we're looking for. The working detective knows that he's usually only as good as his informants. Quite often, when all other means of bringing a case to a successful conclusion have failed, the only thing that'll break it is information supplied by an informant. A detective will protect his informant. For as long as the informant can operate, the detective is assured of a steady flow of information. 9:45 a.m., Frank and I drove over to the coffee shop at the corner of Crawford and Spring Streets. Harry Allenson wasn't there when we arrived. We sat down and ordered a cup of coffee.
Oh, that's good and hot. Yeah, it is. Hey, pass the sugar, will you, Joe?
Yeah. There you go.
Thanks.
Wonder where Allenson is.
What time did he say he'd be here?
9:45.
Well, it's only a couple of minutes after that now. He'll be here.
Wonder how right his story is.
What did he tell you on the phone?
Well, nothing, just that he knew what we were looking for. Said if we'd meet him here, he'd fill us in. There he is.
Oh, yeah.
All righty.
Harry? Sit down.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm late. Got hung up in traffic.
Oh, you got a car now, Harry?
No, missed my streetcar. Had to wait for another. Say, you guys had breakfast yet?
Yeah, we did a little earlier.
You mind if I have something to eat?
No, go ahead.
Where's the waitress?
Well, she was here a minute ago. I don't see her now.
I'll go get her myself. Sure you guys don't want anything to eat?
No, thanks just the same, Harry.
Okay, be right back.
Well, here we go again, Joe.
Yep.
Last time we met him, his meal cost $2.50. How much dough you got on you?
Well, I got a couple of bucks. How you fixed?
Well, not much better. Let's hope he doesn't order too much, though.
How about some more coffee for you guys?
No, thanks, Harry.
Chow will be up in a minute.
All right, how about this information, Harry, about the paper hanger?
Oh, yeah. Funny the way I got it.
That right?
Yeah, I was up in Jack's bar last night. You know, just having a beer, shooting the breeze. All of a sudden, this old girl comes into place. Kind of set everybody back on their heels. It looks so nice.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, she slides up on one of the stools and orders a drink. Even Jack was taken in. Changed his apron and all. Anyway, she climbs up on the stool and orders some sherry. Made a big thing of it.
How do you mean?
Well, Jack started to pour some of it for her, and she stopped him. Said that she wanted California sherry. Said she didn't want that imported stuff. Said her family was one of the first ones in the state and that she believed in using homegrown products. She was kind of cute about it. Real little woman perched up on that stool. Looked a little like a cartoon. You know, the ones with the little old lady guzzling martini.
Yeah.
Oh, say, hold on a minute, will you? My food's ready. Be right back.
Okay, Harry.
How do you like that guy? It takes him 5 hours to get a point
Well,
over.
there's nothing you can do about it, Frank. He's got to tell it his way.
Well, I suppose so.
Nothing like a big breakfast. I always say if you stoke up in the morning, you got it made for the day.
Yeah, that's right, Harry.
Farm breakfast, they call this. Tell you, that's easy. Oh, look at that sausage. Fried real good. I like it when it's like a rock. Can't stand pork that hasn't been cooked enough.
Yeah. You want to go on with the story?
Oh, yeah. Don't mind if I eat, do you? Got a big day today. A lot of things to do.
No, you go right ahead, Harry.
All right. Well, like I said, this old broad ordered the sherry.
Uh-huh.
Well, as time went on, she must have had 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
A couple other guys came in, and I moved over to make room for them. Ended up sitting right next to the woman. Say, pass the ketchup, will you?
Oh, yeah. Here you go.
Eggs aren't much good without a lot of ketchup. Gives them real flavor.
Yeah, Harry, could you get to the point maybe a little sooner?
Oh, well, first off, I noticed this perfume this broad's wearing. Well, now I tell you, it's been a long time since I smelled anything like that. Real heavy. Like the stuff they sell in France.
Yeah.
Didn't fit the woman. No, sir, didn't seem to go with the rest of her. I tried to strike up a conversation, you know, talked about the weather, stuff like that, but she wouldn't have none of it. She didn't actually tell me, but I could tell the way she answered me, you know, kind of cool.
What makes you think she might be the one we're looking for?
The way she looked, the way she worked.
What do you mean the way she worked?
Well, I'm getting to it. Anyway, after she's had the sherry, she reached into her purse to pay for him. Fumbles around in it for a while. Well, I couldn't help seeing what was in it, you know, what was sitting right next to her and all.
Yeah, sure.
Well, she don't come up with any money. And she starts going through her pockets. Still can't find any money. Finally, she asked Jack.
Who's that, the bartender?
Yeah, Jack. He owns the place. She asked him if he'll cash a check.
Yeah.
Well, now I ask you. Either one of you guys know Jack?
No, I don't think we do, Harry.
No, I don't.
Well, Jack wouldn't cash a check for the treasurer of the country. Not even if he had the president to vouch for him. Been stung too many times.
Yeah.
Well, this old gal gets to him, see? I can see him start to go. He kind of hems and haws around all the time. He's trying to figure out a nice way to say no to her.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, he just ups and says it. Well, Right after he kind of waits and expects her to tell him off for being so mean to somebody like her, but she doesn't. Just kind of hunches her shoulders and then starts digging in her purse again. Takes everything out, puts it on the bar. Now, it happens that her driver's license is lying right there on the bar in front of me. Couldn't help but read it, you know.
Yeah, we know.
Well, I saw her name, and I asked her if she'd let me buy the wine for her.
Mm-hmm. What'd she say to that?
Well, when I called her by name, she acted kind of startled, like she didn't expect it, and then she kind of smiled and said she was financially embarrassed at the moment. Something about coming away from the house without any money, but she said she thought it'd be very sweet of me if I'd take care of the tab. So I paid Jack the money, and I asked her if she'd like another one. She said she didn't think so, and then she got all her stuff together and put it back into her purse and thanked me. Then she got up and left.
Yeah, well, what was the name on the driver's license? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Got it written down here someplace. After she left, Jack and me got to talking about her, and then it hit me that she might be the one you're looking for. So I jotted down the name.
You ever see this woman before, Harry?
No, never laid eyes on her before she walked into Jack's last night. Now, here it is.
Mm-hmm, thanks.
Yeah, that's the name at the top of the paper. Right under, that's her address.
The name on the piece of paper was Lillian Halstead. It was a new name in the case. It gave an address out near Bel Air. Frank and I called the name into R&I, but they had no record on anyone answering that description. We paid the check and thanked Harry Allenson for the information, and then we drove out to the address. It was a large house just off Sunset Boulevard. Mrs. Halstead wasn't in, but the maid told us that we'd find her husband at the Halstead School of Dramatic Arts. She gave us the address, and Frank and I drove out to the school. It was located in a large modern building out on Wilshire Boulevard. When we got there, Mr. Halstead was working with the advanced class in the drama section. We took a seat at the rear of the auditorium and waited for him to finish.
You gentlemen wish to see me?
Yes, sir. You're Mr. Halstead, are you?
That's correct.
Police officer, sir. This is my partner, Frank Smith. My name's Friday.
How do you do?
I do.
What is it that you'd like to see me about?
Well, can you tell us where your wife is, sir?
Lillian?
Yes.
Well, she's out of town. Why? What do you want with her?
Well, what if you could describe her for us?
Well, certainly. I don't understand what this is all about, though.
Well, it's just a routine investigation.
Routine? What's that mean?
Well, just that we're conducting an investigation and a woman with the same name as your wife came up. We're just checking it out. Now, if you could give us a description of your wife, please.
Yes, well, let me see. Lillian's 36. Yes, I would say she's 5 feet 6 1/2 inches. Weighs perhaps 130 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
What color's her hair, Mr. Halstead?
Well, before she left, it was sort of an auburn. Lillian said something about dyeing it red. Might have done it since she's been gone.
Where's your wife now?
She's back in Washington. They're holding a drama festival, and she's back there looking it over.
Do you have a picture of your wife here, Mr. Halstead?
Yes, sir. I have one on my desk in the office.
What if we take a look at it?
Why, certainly. You can go out this way.
Fine, thank you.
Here, down this way, please.
Thank you.
You tell me what this investigation is that you're working on?
Well, no, sir, not right now. We can't.
Oh, you can. Cloak and dagger stuff, eh?
No, sir, it's not exactly that.
Oh, here, I'll get the door for you.
Thank you.
Yes, right this way. Excuse me a moment. All right, here. Here's the picture. Lovely woman. Been a great help here at the school.
Yes, sir. How long ago was this picture taken?
Several months ago, I believe.
Mr. Halstead, how long has your wife been out of town?
Perhaps a week, 10 days, perhaps. Something like that.
Mm-hmm. Does your wife drive a car, Mr. Halstead?
Yes, sir, she does. Oh, I understand. The license.
Sir?
Lillian's driver's license. That's what you're here about, isn't it?
Well, I don't understand, sir.
Oh, you don't have to be cagey with me. Lillian lost her driver's license some time ago, asked me to get her a new one. I didn't quite get a chance to do it. You found it. That's it, isn't it?
No, sir, that's not. We think your wife's license has been used as identification by some check forger.
Do you happen to know where your wife might have lost the license?
Why, no, we don't know exactly. It must have been about 3 months ago. She says that she dropped it here at the school, but I've looked all over for it, haven't been able to find it. I think she just left it someplace. She's terribly careless about things like that.
Yes, sir.
Is this about the old woman that's been forging the checks?
Why do you ask that, sir?
Well, that's another thing that I've been meaning to call you about. I was reading the paper one night, and all of a sudden it hit me.
Sir?
Well, I could be wrong, but I think I know the girl who's doing this.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
The modern way to sell cigarettes is the Chesterfield way. Premium quality in both regular and king size. And we're the only one that does it. We tell you what Chesterfields are made of to give you that premium quality in both popular sizes. Our scientists select the best materials. They select for Chesterfield the world's best tobaccos, blend them just right. And they keep Chesterfields tasty and fresh with the best of moistening agents. Now here's something else that's completely modern about Chesterfield. People smoke Chesterfield and we tell you what happens, scientifically but simply.
A medical specialist is making regular bi-monthly examinations of a group of people from various walks of life. 45% of this group have smoked Chesterfield for an average of over 10 years. After 8 months, the medical specialist reports that he observed no adverse effects on the nose, throat, and sinuses of the group from smoking Chesterfield.
I'd say that means real mildness. And finally, we ask you to try Chesterfield and prove what we say. Chesterfield is best for you. They're much milder to give you all the pleasure that the modern cigarette can give.
2:37 p.m. We ran the name Bert Halstead through R&I, but we got no make on anyone answering his description. Halstead told us that he thought we might be looking for a girl he identified as Peggy Small. He told us that the Small girl had enrolled in the dramatic school over a year before. We asked him if he had a picture of her that we could have, and he told us that he thought there was one in the files. He took us down the hall to the registration office and checked his files. He located a picture of the girl and handed it to Frank.
Just why do you think this might be the girl we're looking for, Mr. Halstead?
Well, it's the oddest thing, officer. Peggy. Oh, that's Miss Small.
Yes, sir.
Well, Peggy came to us about a year ago, as I said. She came out here to the coast from some little town in Idaho, I think it was. I'd have to check her entrance application to be sure, but I think it was Idaho.
Yes, sir.
Well, instantly I knew that this girl had talent, real talent, deep down, talent. Right off the bat she had the feel. Would have been a fine character actress.
Well, why do you say would have?
She didn't want to work. Wasn't interested in anything but learning how to be an old woman.
Sir?
All she was interested in was learning to act like a little old woman. Now, we have a theory here at Halstead. Don't act, live. She did just that. Learned the makeup problems, dress, walk, everything. She even used to practice writing like a woman of 60 or so. I used to see her practicing by the hour.
Did she ever give you any reason for all this?
No. I asked her once, but she said that this was the way she wanted it. Now, I thought that she was trying to tell me to keep my nose out of her affairs in a nice way, so I didn't ask her again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have presentations here, you know. Each term, the class presents a play that's been written and produced by the students themselves.
Yes, sir.
Peggy would always do the oldest female part in them. Never was interested in anything else. She had several good offers, but for some reason she did not take them.
What do you mean by that, sir?
Well, one night a talent scout from one of the majors came out to see our play.
Well,
he was quite... Majors, the studio.
Let's see.
He was quite impressed with Peggy, offered her a term contract, good money. She'd have done well, but she just was not interested. I just can't understand it.
Well, do you know where she is now?
No, officer, I haven't seen Peggy since she left here. That was about 4 months ago.
I wonder if you could tell us where she lived when she was enrolled here.
Certainly. I have the address on her enrollment card.
Well, that's fine. We'd like to have the names and addresses of any of her close friends, too, if we could.
Oh, certainly glad to help. You think it could be her, Peggy, the woman you're looking for?
Well, it could be, yes, sir.
Odd. Now, I got to thinking about it when I read about it in the papers. Right away, it made me think of Peggy. How she used to talk about acting.
Well, how's that, sir?
Well, she used to always say there was only one reason for doing anything, and that was to come out on it. That was the trouble with most people. They just didn't know where they wanted to end up. But she knew where she was going.
Well, maybe she was right.
I beg your pardon?
If she's the one we're looking for, we know, too. 3:12 p.m. We got Peggy Small's address from Mr. Halstead, and then we went back to the office. We ran the name through R&I, but there was no record on the girl. 4:02 p.m. Frank and I drove out to the last known address of the Small girl. It was a boarding house on 92nd Street. Peggy Small wasn't in, but the landlady told us that she usually didn't get back from work until 7 or 7:30. We asked if she knew where the girl worked, but she told us that she didn't.
We arranged for a stakeout on the house, and at 4:37 p.m. we checked back into the office. You want to check the book?
Right.
Anything?
Don't think so. There's a call from Faye. Wants to know if I'll be home for dinner. I better give her a call, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Faye's getting a little hacked at me.
Was that so?
Yeah. Last 3 nights she's waited dinner for me and I didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, honey. Yeah. Well, I don't know yet. Yeah? Well, I think so. I know. Well, maybe another hour or so I'll know. Yeah. Okay, honey. Bye. If I don't make it tonight, she's going to scalp me.
I get it. Forgery Friday. Yes, ma'am. What's that address again? All right. Yes, ma'am. We'll be right there. Well, your dinner's going to have to wait again.
Why?
Dry goods store out on Main. Forger's there now. In the process of the investigation, the police department had alerted the merchants throughout the city to the method of operation of the woman forger. Thousands of printed circulars had been distributed bearing her description. An artist's conception of the woman had been published in the daily papers, and the drawing had also been broadcast over the local television stations. The clerk in the store we'd gotten the call from had noticed a similarity between a woman waiting to cash a check and the description. From the information we'd gotten on the hot shot, the woman was waiting for an authorization for the check. When Frank and I got to the store, we met a small elderly woman. She produced identification in the form of a driver's license bearing the name Lillian Halstead. Frank and I asked her to go with us to the city hall for questioning. A policewoman was called, and the interrogation started. One look at her, and you could see that she was covered with a heavy makeup.
I want you gentlemen to know that I resent the implication you're making. The idea of trying to make me out a vicious criminal.
Ma'am, we're not trying to embarrass you. We just want to get to the truth here.
I'm giving you that. I'm telling you what you want to know.
All right, now let's get it over with. What's your name?
Lillian Halstead.
Is this your driver's license?
Yes, it is.
Then the thumbprint on it should be yours, too. Is that right?
I'd imagine so, yes.
Well, then suppose we go down the hall and take your fingerprints and compare it, huh?
Now, you look here, young man. I know my rights. You're not dealing with some little schoolgirl this time. I've lived a long time, and I know just exactly what you can do and what you can't do. I know, for instance, that you can't take my fingerprints unless you want to arrest me for something. If you want to make a fool out of yourself to that extent, then you go right ahead and do it. And mark this well, young man. I'll sue you for every nickel you own. I'll let the papers know about this. They'd love to know how you treat old women. They'd just love to know.
You ever been mistreated in any way, ma'am?
No, and I don't intend to be.
There's a man on the way down here, a man by the name of Halstead. Wife's name is Lillian Halstead. That driver's license we found in your purse, the one you claim is yours, that's registered to his wife. He's coming down here to tell us that you weren't his wife, that you stole that license, that you were a student in his dramatic school. Now, why don't you save us all a lot of trouble here? Why don't you admit that you're the woman we're looking for, that you're Peggy Small, you're no old woman? Come on, how about it, Miss Small?
All right, I lose. Guess I should have known. Mind if I take this wig off? It's kind of warm in here.
We've been kind of waiting for it. Go right ahead.
It was a good racket while it lasted. Crummy driver's license. I was doing all right as long as I used the letters. They should have been good enough for me. I should have known.
What'd you do with the money?
I got it all, every last nickel of it. I almost had enough, too.
Enough for what?
Leave this lousy town, get out of here, go back east, New York. A couple more pieces of paper and I'd have it made. Could have left. Almost showed him good.
Ma'am?
Phony town. Months I pounded on doors, talking to agents, casting directors, talking to anybody who'd listen to me, trying to get a job, trying to get a break in pictures. None of them would talk to me, wouldn't even see me. This phony town.
Yes, ma'am.
They wanted character women. Didn't want any young women, character women. That's what they wanted. So I got to be the best of them. They didn't want me the way I am. I didn't want to work any other way, none. Had you fooled, didn't I? Had the whole town fooled. All of them. Phony place. I was going back east, back to New York. They know talent back there. They recognize it. They know whether you're real there or whether you're just a phony. They know it there.
Yes, ma'am. We know it here, too.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On June 19th, trial was held in Department 89, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, only the modern cigarette, Chesterfield, gives you this scientific evidence on the effects of smoking. No adverse effects on the nose, throat, and sinuses of the group from smoking Chesterfields. And only the modern cigarette, Chesterfield, gives you premium quality in both regular and king size. Now, I know Chesterfield is best for me and best for you. Buy 'em, regular or king size. Either way, they're much milder to give you all the pleasure the modern cigarette can give.
Peggy Janice Small was tried and convicted of forgery, 10 counts. She was sentenced to the California Institution for Women at Corona, California, for the term prescribed by law. Forgery is punishable by imprisonment for a period of from 1 to 14 years in the state penitentiary. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, June Whitley, Jack Crucian, Gene Tatum. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Sound off for Chesterfield. Either way you like them, regular or king size, you'll find premium quality Chesterfields much milder.
Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Tonight, it's Adventure with Barry Craig, confidential investigator on NBC.
Sound off for Chesterfield. Chesterfield, the only cigarette in America to give you premium quality in both regular and king size, brings you Dragnet.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A man walks into your office and tells you he returned to his home to find that his wife was gone. She left no indication where she was going. Foul play is suspected. Your job, find her. The modern way to sell cigarettes is the Chesterfield way. Premium quality in both regular and king size. And we're the only one that does it.
Premium quality in a cigarette means the world's best tobaccos, the best ingredients, the best cigarette paper. Only Chesterfield gives you this premium quality in both popular sizes.
King-size Chesterfield contains tobaccos of better quality and higher price than any other king-size cigarette. That's certainly important to every king-size smoker. Of course, it's the same fine tobacco as in regular Chesterfield. There is absolutely no difference, except that king-size Chesterfield gives you more than a fifth longer smoke.
Yes, the modern way to sell cigarettes is the Chesterfield way. Premium quality, both regular and king size.
Chesterfield is much milder. Chesterfield is best for you.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, July 7th. It was hot in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on my way into work, and it was 4:58 p.m. when I got to room 42. Homicide.
Joe, that you?
Yeah. Been here long?
No, I just got in. Sure a beautiful day, isn't it?
Yeah, summer's really here, isn't it?
This daylight saving time makes a difference. Got a lot more time, seems like. Made me think about my vacation.
Well, you're doing a couple of weeks, aren't you?
Yeah, first part of August.
Mm-hmm. Figured out where you're going yet?
Yeah, Fay and I talked it out. You know, Joe...
Oh, what's that?
I think maybe I had Armin figured wrong.
Armin? That's your brother-in-law?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This year, Fay and I got to talking where we're going to spend the vacation. Fay wants to go up to Big Bear. I'm saying Mexico.
Yeah?
You know, I figure a little fishing. I hear the yellows are hitting pretty good.
The what?
Yellowtails.
Oh, yeah.
You don't fish much,
No,
do you,
I don't
Joe?
fish at all, you know.
Well, they're supposed to be hitting pretty good, but Fay can't see Mexico. And darn if old Armin doesn't chime in and say he thinks Mexico's a great idea.
Well, that's swell.
Yeah, tells Fay all about the beaches down there and how good the food is, all about the air, healthy. You know, really sells her.
So that's where you're going, huh?
No, Fay didn't buy it. It's going to the mountains.
Well, fishing's supposed to be pretty good up there, too, isn't it? That's what I've read, I guess.
I suppose so, but... Old Armin, how do you like that guy? He sure surprised me.
Yeah, maybe he's going to work out, huh?
Yeah.
I'll get it.
Okay.
Homicide, Friday. Yes, sir, it is. I beg your pardon. Could you talk a little louder? Yes, sir. Uh-huh. Yes, sir. Well, when was that? I see. When? Yes, sir. What was that address again? All right, I have it. Yes. Yes, sir, that's right. We'll be right out. Right, bye. Well, we got one to roll on. Kidnapping out in Hollywood. The man on the phone gave his name as Henry Wagner. He said that he'd come home from work and found that his wife was gone. He said on the phone that he'd found a note demanding ransom and cautioning him against calling the police. 5:22 p.m. Frank and I arrived at the house on Temple Hill Avenue. We parked the car down the street from the house and went up to the front door. Frank would remain in the car for a few minutes and then follow. In that way, if the kidnappers were watching the house, they wouldn't be as likely to know that we were working on the case. I rang the bell and waited.
Yes, you're the police?
Yes, sir, that's right. My name's Friday.
Oh, hello. Come in, please, quickly. I don't want them to see you.
Who's them, sir?
The kidnappers. They might be watching. I don't know what I'm going to do. Terrible thing to have happen. Just doesn't make sense.
All right, now, sir, if you just try to calm down and tell me what happened here. We're going to start right from the beginning.
All right. I got home from school about 4:30. Myra wasn't here. I looked at the house for her. Figured, like you said on the phone, that she might have gone to the store. When I couldn't find her, I started looking for a note. That's when I found the ransom demand right there on the coffee table.
And you said you got home from school, was that it?
Yes, I teach political science at the university.
Well, when did you last see your wife?
When I left this morning, about 7:30. I have a class at 8.
Have you talked to her since?
Yes, I called her about 1:15.
Did everything seem all right then? I mean, did she seem to be upset, anything like that?
No, everything seemed to be normal.
Did she say if there was anyone with her when you talked to her?
No, if there was, she didn't give any indication of it.
I see.
I know that this isn't a hoax, if that's what you're thinking. I know that Myra wouldn't do a thing like this. She's a serious woman. I guess you might say that she had a rather dull sense of humor. No, I know that she wouldn't do a thing like this as a joke.
No, sir, it's not that. I'm just trying to get all the facts here. Wonder if I could see the note.
Yes, I left it over here on the desk.
That'll be my partner. I'll let him in if it's all right. All right, Frank. Yeah, come on in. See here. Mr. Wagner, it's my partner, Frank Smith.
How do you do,
Mr.
sir?
Wagner.
How do you do? I'll get the note.
I'd rather you wouldn't handle it anymore, sir.
Oh, all right. You're going to try to get some fingerprints from it? Is that right?
Well, that's the idea, yes, sir.
You read it, Joe?
Yeah, it's made up of newsprint. It's been cut out of the paper. Looks like one of the morning papers.
Yeah.
I'll read it to you. It says put $10,000 in 5s, 10s, and 20s in the shoebox. Make sure the bills are unmarked. On July 8th, drive up Deer Canyon Drive at 10:30 p.m., 5 miles past the turnoff. You'll see a white string across the road. Drop the shoebox out of the car, go on back home. Your wife will be returned. Don't tell the cops. If you tell anybody, we'll kill your wife.
Deer Canyon Drive.
Yeah, you know, it's up above Laurel.
Oh, yeah. $10,000. Do you have that kind of money, Mr. Wagner?
No, sir. I don't know how I'm going to raise it. I have to, but I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Have you noticed anyone lately that's been in the neighborhood here? I mean, anybody loitering around without any reason to be here?
No, I haven't. Of course, you must understand I'm not home a great deal. But Myra didn't say anything about it. I'm sure she would have if she'd seen anybody like that.
You and your wife have any enemies that do a thing like this, would you know?
None that I can think of.
Do you have any household help?
I beg pardon?
Household help. Anyone that comes in to help your wife with the housework. You know, day maid, something like that.
Well, there's Betty Jo. She comes in once a week to clean up the house.
When was she last here?
Let me see. That was Saturday. That's her usual day, Saturday. I guess it was then.
Didn't you see her last week?
No. You see, I had to go out by Pomona this last weekend. Series of lectures I wanted to catch. I left early Saturday morning, didn't get back until late that night.
Did your wife go with you?
No, she stayed at home. She had a little touch of the virus and figured she'd better stay at home and take care of it. Are you sure this is the right thing to do? Maybe I should have handled this myself.
No, sir, you did the right thing. I wonder if you could give us a description of your wife, Mr. Wagner.
Why? You aren't going to tell anyone else about this, are you?
No, sir. The information will be handled in the usual confidential manner.
Oh. Well, I guess you men know what you're doing.
All right, sir, if you'd just give us a description, if you could.
Well, Myra is about 5'3". I guess she weighs about 130 pounds.
Mm-hmm. How old is she, sir?
42. Just turned 42. Birthday last month, June 14th.
How about the color of her hair?
Sort of an auburn, I guess you'd call it. A little gray up in here, along the sides.
Mm-hmm. Would you know what she was wearing?
No, I wouldn't have the slightest idea. I don't know her clothes well enough to be able to look at what's in her closet and tell you what she had on.
Mm-hmm. How about marks?
I don't think I understand.
I'm sorry. I mean, any visible birthmarks or scars, anything that might make it easier to identify her.
No, I don't think so. Oh, wait a minute. There's a very small scar just under her ear right here. A couple of years ago, Myra and I went fishing up in the Sierras. Myra got a trout fly caught there. When they took it out, it left just a very small scar. But I don't think you'd be able to see it unless you were really looking for it.
Mm-hmm. Anything else outstanding about her?
No, there isn't.
I wonder if we could have a photo of her. Do you have one?
Of course.
Wonder if you'd give us the address of this Betty Jo?
Surely. I think Myra kept it in the phone book. I'll look for you. Do you think they'll really do it, officer? Kill Myra?
Well, we're going to try to stop them, sir. I don't think so.
Well, how about the money? Should I get it together? Not a lot of time if I have to meet them tomorrow night.
We'll take care of that.
Here's the address.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know what I'll do if they hurt Myra. Just don't know. It's odd, isn't it, Sergeant?
What's that?
Myra and I have been married for 22 years. I guess I always just took her for granted. Haven't been separated at all during that time. Just took her for granted.
Yes, sir.
I guess you have to lose something before you know what it's worth.
5:43 p.m. We asked Mr. Wagner not to touch anything in the house. We told him that after his wife had been returned and our men could move safely about the neighborhood, the house would be gone over for physical evidence. 2 men came out from the office and a stakeout was placed on the house. The note was taken downtown and photographed. Dean Bergman lifted several clean prints from it. However, comparison with those taken from Mr. Wagner eliminated them. The maid, Betty Jo, was contacted, but she could tell us nothing. In the meantime, Sergeant J. Allen at the crime lab prepared a shoebox as directed by the abductors. Dummy packages of money were placed in the box, and the container was wiped clean of all fingerprints. The area where the meet was to take place was staked out. The following morning, Wednesday, July 8th, Henry Wagner went to teach his classes at the university as usual. Late in the afternoon, he returned home, and at 9:45 p.m., he got into his car and left the house. I'd gotten into the back seat of the car earlier, and I kept out of sight. In an undercover unit behind us, Frank, Lieutenant Gorham, and Gil Encinas kept us under observation in the event that we missed contact with the kidnappers. 10:26 p.m. We turned off Benedict Canyon onto Deer Canyon Drive.
I hope I'm doing the right thing. I can't help thinking of what they might do to Myra.
Well, try to take it easy, Mr. Wagner. We know how you feel. Everything that can be done has been taken care of here.
That's what you've been telling me for the past hour. Doesn't make me feel any better about what's happening.
Can you still see that car behind us?
No. I think they dropped back when we turned off Benedict.
Uh-huh. How's it look up ahead?
Can't see much. Dark.
How far off the canyon have we come?
About 4.5 miles.
You got your box right there ready to throw it out?
Yes, sir. Right here on the seat.
All right, now remember, when you toss it out, try to lift it by the strings.
Right, I'll remember. I just hope we're doing the right thing. I'll never forgive myself if anything happens to Myra. $10,000 just isn't worth it. Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. String across the road.
See anybody around it?
No, it's so dark. I can't see anything but what's in front of the car.
How close are we to the place here?
About 50 or 60 feet.
All right, now take it slow. Don't give any indication that you aren't doing exactly what they told you to. And remember, don't handle that box. Hold it with a string.
All right. We're here. I'm throwing the box out.
All right, now close your door.
What now?
Go up the road a little, and then turn around and drive back. Act like everything is just the way they told you to handle it.
All right.
Take it easy now.
We can turn around here.
All right. You see anyone move for the money?
No, not yet. Maybe when I get turned around. Just a second. There's a driveway here. Oh, it's pretty dark back there.
All right, can you see anything at all?
Nothing there. I don't see anyone.
All right, now just keep driving. If there's anybody to pick up the money, it'll look better if you don't cause any trouble.
I don't know about all of this, Sergeant. Somehow I still can't get the idea out of my mind that we've done the wrong thing. That they know all about it, that they're going to kill Myra.
Now, there's no reason that they should know that there's anything wrong, Mr. Wagner. From what they can see, you're doing just what they told you. They got nothing to tell them any different here.
But what if they found out? What if they know that you're working on the case? What if they know about it? They might kill Myra. I'd never forgive myself. I never should have told you about it. I should have taken care of it myself. They'll kill her. I know they will. They'll kill her because you're working on it. The way it is now, she hasn't got a chance.
No, you're wrong there, Wagner. The odds are on her side now. 10:45 p.m. Henry Wagner and I left the meeting place. About a mile down Deer Canyon Drive, Wagner dropped me off, and then he started down Benedict Canyon Drive and continued on home. I met with Frank, Lieutenant Gorham, and Sergeant Gil Encinas, and we started back on foot. We cut off the road and waited on the hill overlooking the meeting place. Frank told me that they'd seen no activity on the road while Wagner and I were making the meet. We moved in closer. 11:30 p.m. No sign of the kidnappers. The moon came up, and we could see the white string across the road. In a patch of manzanita, we could see the shoebox containing the dummy packages of money. We waited. Midnight. 1:30 a.m. Still no sign of the kidnappers. 2:30. 4. At 4:45 a.m., the sun came up, and Frank and I left the area. Lieutenant Gorham and Sergeant Gil Encinas continued to stake the meeting place. If the kidnappers had been in the vicinity, we'd missed them. Our only course now was to wait for them to contact Henry Wagner again. 8:15 a.m. Frank and I checked out and went on home to take a shower and get something to eat. At 11:12 a.m. Thursday morning, we checked back into the office.
Rough night, huh?
Yeah, there's nothing to show for it.
Anything from Gorman and Encinas?
No, I don't see anything.
There's one thing I found out.
What's that?
I need a heavier coat for nights.
Yeah?
Saw an ad in the magazine. Advertised those English duffel coats. Look real good.
What?
Duffel coats. Wore 'em in the North Atlantic during the war. You know, Joe, they're real heavy. Got a hood that comes up. Should be real warm.
A hood?
Yeah, you know, like a monk wears. When you aren't wearing it, look just like a collar. So when it gets cold, you raise up the little gimmick, and there you are, warm as anything.
You know, Frank, somehow I just can't see you in that.
Yeah? Well, I noticed you weren't any too warm last night. Next time we do duty like that, I'm going to be ready for it.
Yeah. It's just like a monk. I'll get it. Homicide Friday. Yes. Oh, yes, mister. When was that? Uh-huh. Yes, sir, right away. Well, that's it.
Huh?
The Wagner woman, she's home.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
Friends, you'll remember some months ago we read you our first report, the 6 months report on the effects of smoking. Then more recently we read you the 8 months report. Now here is the latest one. The full 10 months report confirms again
No adverse effects on the nose, throat, and sinuses of the group from smoking Chesterfields.
This from a medical specialist who is making regular bi-monthly examinations of a group of people from various walks of life. 45% of them have smoked Chesterfield for an average of over 10 years.
After 10 full months, the specialist reports he observed no adverse effects on the nose, throat, and sinuses of the group from smoking Chesterfield.
That's the report. Buy much milder Chesterfield, regular or king size. The cigarette that's best for you.
11:30 a.m. Frank and I drove out to the Wagner home. The officers on stakeout told us that Mrs. Wagner had walked into the house at about 11 o'clock that morning. As soon as she'd gotten inside the house, she collapsed. The family doctor had been called, and she was treated for shock. Other than some scratches on her arms and around her face, she was unharmed. The officers told us that they'd been unable to interrogate her so far. We talked to the doctor, and he told us that we could talk to her until the sedative took effect.
Honey, these are policemen. They want to ask you a few questions.
What?
Police officers, honey. There's Mr. Friday and there's Mr. Smith.
Oh, yes.
They want to ask you some questions, dear, about the people who took you.
Oh, all right.
It won't take very long, Miss Wagner.
That's all right. I want to help you get them.
All right, now if you just tell us how it happened.
How it happened?
Yes, ma'am.
Sergeant, you have to do this now. Maybe later when she's rested.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Wagner. We haven't got much choice here. We'd like to get to the people who did this. If we wait until later, we might not be able to get them.
Yes, I didn't think of that. Well, if the doctor says it's all right, go ahead.
Miss Wagner?
Yes?
Do you know the people who did it? The people who took you?
No.
You never seen them before?
No, never.
All right, now, could you just tell us what happened?
I guess so. They came to the door about 2:30.
Who were they, ma'am?
Well, I just saw a man. Later, when we got into the car, there was a woman, too.
All right, go ahead.
They told me that Henry had been in an accident, that he'd been hurt, that he was at the hospital. Said they wanted to take me to him.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't know any different. I went with them. I thought that Henry was hurt. I didn't know any different.
You have to do this, officers. She's home, safe. That's all I care about. That's all that's important. Why don't you let her get some rest? Then you can talk to her. Talk as much as you want to. But please, you can see what this is doing to her.
Yes, sir. Now, look, this isn't any easier on us. We've got a job to do here. Like we had when she was gone. We know how you feel, but we'd like to get to those people.
It's all right, Henry. I'm all right, dear.
Where'd they take you, ma'am?
First, I think they were going to take me to a house near here. I didn't notice the street, but it was near here. I'm sure of that. Then when we got near there, I knew that something was wrong, that they weren't going to take me to Henry like they said. I knew it then.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I told them to let me out of the car, said that they'd better let me go.
Mm-hmm.
The woman, she was in the back seat with me, said for me to keep my mouth closed. I tried to get out the door, and she hit me. Then the two of them got into an argument. The man started to yell at the woman that it wasn't any good, that they'd better forget the whole thing. And the woman said that they'd gone too far for that now, that they had to go through with it.
Uh-huh.
Well, then they put a blindfold on me, tied my hands and blindfolded me, and then they started to drive.
Well, at any time, did either of them use a name, and talking to each other?
No, I don't think so. At least if they did, I don't remember it.
Uh-huh. Go ahead, Miss Wagner.
Well, then they started to drive. I couldn't see where they were going, but I know that they headed out the Arroyo Seco toward Pasadena. I could tell from the way we went. Then I heard the woman talk about the turnoff to get on the Seco. Right then the man told her to shut up.
Yes, ma'am.
We drove for quite a while and then stopped. They made me get out and took me into a house.
Did you have any idea where you were at the time, ma'am?
No, I didn't.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, ma'am.
Well, they took me into the house and put me in a room. Tied me up. I couldn't move, couldn't do anything. They locked the door, and I could hear them arguing in the next room. The man was really telling the woman off. Said that she was a fool, that she'd really botched the whole thing up.
I see.
That night, they brought in a plate of food. Told me it was time to eat. All there was were some prunes. That's what they fed me all the time I was there, prunes. Never did take the blindfold off.
Was there anything at all that would let you know where you were?
Oh, a couple of things. They're probably kind of silly, but maybe you can make something out of them.
What's that, ma'am?
Well, there was a clock that was in the room where they had me, one of those chime clocks, tolled every 15 minutes, like Westminster chimes.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think it was a very big clock. Chimes sounded small.
Mm-hmm.
Then there were the trains.
Trains?
Yes, every once in a while I'd hear trains going past. Sounded like they were near, maybe a couple blocks away, not much more than that.
But do you think that you could give us a description of the man and woman, Miss Wagner?
Yes, I think so. First, I was so upset with thinking that Henry was hurt that I didn't notice, but I think I can describe them for you.
All right, ma'am, that'll be fine.
There's one thing, though.
What's that?
I'd be positive if I saw them.
12 noon. We continued to talk to the Wagner woman. She gave us a description of the man and woman who had kidnapped her and a description of the car they'd used. We called the information into the office, and a local and an APB were gotten out. We ran the descriptions through R&I, but we got no make. 2:45 p.m. As one of the possibilities for identifying the locality described by Mrs. Wagner, Frank and I left the house and drove to the office of one of the milk companies in the city. We talked to the driver that handled the area in which Mrs. Wagner said the kidnappers were going to stop. He couldn't identify the man and the woman from the description. We checked 2 more milk companies, and on the 3rd, we got a tentative identification. The driver of the route told us that we could be asking about a Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Harper, he thought. He gave us their address, and Frank and I drove out there. On the way, we called the names into R&I and had them make a check for us. They said they had a record on a Thomas Harper who answered the description. He'd served time in San Quentin and in Folsom penitentiaries. He'd been sentenced both times for armed robbery and ADW. There was no record on Mrs. Harper and no wants at the present time for her husband. 5:57 p.m. Well, we better try it again, huh?
All right. Probably aren't in.
Mm-hmm. There's a car parked down the street here. It could be theirs. Checks on that description we got from the Wagner woman.
Yeah, I think somebody's coming.
Yeah, what do you want?
You Thomas Harper?
Yeah, that's right.
Police officers would like to talk to you.
What about?
Just like to talk to you.
All right, come on in.
What is it, Tom?
Cops.
What do they want?
Say they want to talk. I don't know what about.
Just a routine investigation.
Who are you trying to kid?
What do you mean by that, Harper?
Somebody's done something, you need a pigeon. I got a record, so I'm right for you guys to lean on.
What's the matter? You got something to worry about?
Not a thing in the world, but I know you guys, you're going to try.
What do you want, anyway?
You people tell us your activities for the past 4 days?
What for?
Just tell us, will you?
Yeah, tell us. You got an angle or you wouldn't be here. You're trying to pin something on us, and you know it.
You want to tell us what you've been doing?
We haven't left the house at all.
Can you prove that?
Prove it to who? You? You got no right to come in here and ask a lot of questions.
She's right. You haven't got any right to do that. Now, either you pull us in or you get out of here.
All right, Harper. We're getting ready to leave anyway. We'll see you later.
Yeah, let's go, Frank.
Right.
You better call the office and have the house staked. As soon as Ms. Wagner feels better, we'll have her see if she can make an identification here, huh?
I don't think that'll be too hard, Joe. Found this bill from the gas company on a table in there.
Yeah?
House in Pasadena.
Harper's mugshot had been pulled and sent to the Wagner home for identification. Mrs. Wagner was still under sedatives. 7:15 p.m. Frank and I drove out to Pasadena. We got in touch with the police department out there, and 2 officers were assigned to accompany us to the address on the gas bill. The house was unoccupied, and there were advertising papers strewn all about on the lawn. With the officers, we entered the house and went through it. In some of the rooms, there were pieces of furniture, and in the living room of the house, we found a mantel clock that chimed on the quarter hour. On an end table, we found a ball of white string that looked like the same type that had been used to mark the meeting place up on Deer Canyon Drive. In one of the back bedrooms, we found prune seeds scattered around on the floor. A stakeout was arranged on the house. We contacted the men watching the Harper residence and found that the suspects were still there. 9:56 p.m., Frank and I arrived back at the Harper home in Hollywood. The lights were out and the house was dark. Frank went around to the back of the house.
Yeah? What do you want this time of the night? Did you guys ever give up?
All right, Harper, let's get dressed. We want to talk to you downtown.
You tying a pinch to me?
You called it.
For what?
Kidnapping.
You're out of your mind.
Come on, get dressed.
Who is it, honey?
Cops say we kidnapped somebody.
What?
Fuzz has an idea we kidnapped somebody.
You're kidding.
Afraid not, Miss Harper. You better get dressed, too. Anybody else in the house?
Yeah, we take in boarders.
Don't get smart. Where's that door go?
Bedroom.
Just the one bedroom here?
That's right. We're roughing it.
Just the kitchen over here?
Yeah.
All right, come on. How about the bath?
In there.
All right, we'll all go. Come on. All right. Let's go back to the kitchen. This door go out the backyard?
You're a cop. You figure it out.
Okay, Frank.
Everything all right there, Joe?
Yeah, fine.
You ain't kidding about this kidnap thing, are you?
No, let's go.
What makes you figure it might be us?
You got a house in Pasadena?
Why do you ask that?
Have you got one?
No.
You're lying. Property records in Pasadena say you have. We checked the house. Matches the one we're looking for.
That right?
That's right. We got the woman you kidnapped. She's identified your picture, you and your wife.
She couldn't identify me. I haven't got a record.
You ain't taking me no place.
Frank, get out of my way. Hold it. Hold it right there.
All right, come on. On your feet.
Now, shake. He's clean. Hands behind you.
I told you what had happened. I told you we should let her go right away. I told you.
Oh, shut up.
You and your bright ideas. 10 grand easy. You and your bright ideas. Well, look what I got it.
Look, Buster. You didn't yell when you thought of getting your hot little hands on that dough. You were all for it then. Well, we lost. What do you want me to do about it? Break down and bawl?
Should have known from the beginning. I had nothing but trouble with you from the start. Always wanting something easy. Always wanting big money. Never satisfied.
That's the trouble with kids. Bad losers. Great winners, but bad losers. Well, you're a big boy now. You lost. That's all there is to it. Stop whining.
Easy for you to say. If you get through with me, I'll be in for life. You got no record.
She has now. Let's go.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On November 10th, trial was held in Department 98, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, only the modern cigarette, Chesterfield, gives you this scientific evidence on the effects of smoking. No adverse effects on the nose, throat, and sinuses of the group from smoking Chesterfields. And only the modern cigarette, Chesterfield, gives you premium quality in both regular and king size. Now, I know Chesterfield is best for me and best for you. Buy them, regular or king size. Either way, they're much milder to give you all the pleasure the modern cigarette can give.
Thomas Benton Harper was tried and found guilty of kidnapping. He was sentenced to life imprisonment in the state penitentiary, Folsom, California, without possibility of parole. His wife, Alice Mabel Harper, received a like sentence and is now in the California Institution for Women, Corona, California.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Would you give a few dimes to help a child out of the smallest prison in the world, an iron lung? Well, that's what you're doing when you join the 1953 March of Dimes. Remember, crippled children are depending on your help. So give your dimes and your dollars to the 1953 March of Dimes.
Just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Virginia Gregg, Jonathan Hull. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Sound off for Chesterfield. Either way you like them, regular or king size, you'll find premium quality Chesterfields much milder.
Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.